Introduction. The President, Dr. Mark Rocha. Vice President, Dr. Bell. Vice President Miller, I thought I saw earlier. Ophelia Oleana. Matt Jordan. Let's see. Roger Mannheim, the head of the FA is here. Anybody else who I missed? Okay. So the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from April 1st. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Thank you, Mark. Any second? Thank you.
Well, no,
Any second for the minutes?
excuse me, I wanted to make a motion to amend the minutes.
Sure, we'll do that after we get to the minutes. Second?
Second.
Paul? Okay, Pat, please go ahead. Any amendment?
I would like to amend the minutes. Now, on my handout, it's on page 5 of the Baker Dwelling printout. And this is under the public comment that was reopened. And it says here, Dustin Kennedy sought legal advice on this item and is seeking a second opinion from the statewide academic senate president, Michelle Pilati, for the following reasons. And I would like to amend that to say that Dustin Kennedy sought legal advice on this item from General Counsel Gail Cooper.
Okay, so noted. Yes.
I thought you had specified that you didn't actually specifically seek legal counsel, but you received legal counsel.
Received legal.
But wasn't that after you notified them that this was going to be on the agenda?
They were notified and then she called me.
Okay.
That was the order.
So you notified them when it was going to be on the agenda, and then they contacted you.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
That's the correct order.
So I think saying that you saw, that the president sought legal advice is incorrect. At least.
Well, then we have a motion to
Well,
notify.
so the president sought legal advice from General Counsel Gail Cooper.
That's fine. I don't know if you already concerned about the word sought.
Yeah. It implies that you acted.
It was received.
You received legal
Okay,
counsel.
well, is it in the minutes that they informed?
No, it is not. It is not in the minutes. But
Okay,
it
so
says in
then-
the minutes that sought legal advice on this item.
Okay, but is it anywhere in the minutes that the executive committee informed the administration that that item was going to be on the agenda? Because that needs to be in there.
Okay, well then.
So, will you clarify your motion? I'm sorry.
I would like to amend the minutes to that Dustin Kennedy informed the executive committee that this item would be on the agenda and then receive legal advice from
That's
General Counsel.
I think that's correct. That's how I would characterize it. So noted. Any other changes to the minutes? Yes.
On section 6, number 5, when it was talking about the additional flex days, and where it says the vote, it says 3 abstentions, but it has Melissa Mattheson. It was me.
So noted.
There should be 3 different things.
Okay, so. Any other changes or amendments to the minutes? Okay. With those amendments or changes, all in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, final request, I'm going to let Nancy do the election results before we get to public comment. So please go ahead.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Academic Senate Nominations and Elections Committee, we'd like to thank all the candidates who put their names forward to run in this election. Thank you for their time and effort. We also thank all of the voters. It was a heavy voter turnout this year. And we'd like to thank Judy Benson, who was with us every step of the way. Thank you for all your work. With that said, the election results are as follows. President Eduardo A. Cairo. Vice President Early Douglas. Secretary Pat Rose. Treasurer Dan Hayes. Thank you.
Yes, Pat.
Mr. President, before we get to public comments, I would like to make a motion to make 2 changes to the agenda. The agenda items that are listed under number 5.
Number 5. Okay, what is your request?
Okay, I have 2 motions. I would like to move up the calendar 2013-2014 item to right after public comment. And then I would like to deal with old business next in the order of its discussion at the last Senate meeting. Do you want me to give you my reasons now, or do you want to discuss that and then I give you my reasons?
One at a time.
So we'll take each motion one at a time.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to move the calendar committee up to the item after public comment, simply because it is an emergency item, and I think that it needs to be dealt with.
Okay. Okay, we need to discuss, there's actually no discussion of that motion. All in favor of doing the calendar discussion before we do the other items, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so done.
And the second motion is that I would like to move that the vote of no confidence that was discussed in the last Senate meeting, and because of the seriousness of the issue in the vote, and the vote that we discuss it while all the senators are still present tonight and can cast their vote.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor of, what was the motion again? I'm quite
Then we change the order of the agenda.
So you want to do calendar, then no confidence, and then the others? Is that what you're asking?
That's correct.
Okay.
Can I
Yes.
ask a friendly amendment, Pat? Would you mind if we had, Joe Fusco has been trying to quickly announce what's going on. Would you mind if she made her announcement before that discussion? Because I know that she also has had this on the agenda for the last 3 times and hasn't had a chance to
That's
discuss
fine.
it. Thank you.
So we ask you to do that first?
Mhm.
So she's asking, we're asking to do that first. Is that okay?
Yes.
As a friendly amendment?
As a friendly amendment.
Okay. Okay, so that's the motion basically to go in the order of, Joe will go first, then the calendar, then the no confidence, and then going forward from there. That's the motion. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so done. All right. Okay, so let's get to public comment. The first is our president, so please.
Thank you, Justin. I come over here and stand near the door. And I'll be very brief. I'll just kind of read from a letter to you, Justin, members of the Academic Senate. First of all, I should say I am, after my comment, going to depart. Have Dodger Stadium tonight. Jackie Robinson today at Major League Baseball, so I'm going over there to Dodger Stadium with a group. There is one extra Dodger ticket that is in Mary's office, so if you know of anybody who wants to go to the game, it's there. The other thing I just want to say, I sent a notice to the entire staff about this tragic event in Boston at the Boston Marathon. So if any of you know anyone in our extended PCC community who is from Boston or involved in that event, or anybody at all who's in any distress, if you would please let me know so that we can see that we can provide the support. As to my letter, dear President Hanley and members of the Academic Senate, I come today on your last meeting of this academic year to do something I do every year. First, to sincerely thank you, President Hanley, and this year's Senate officers, as well as all our faculty senators, for your service to the Senate and to the college this year. I also came to offer my personal and hearty congratulations to President-elect Eduardo Parro and Professors Early Douglas, Pat Rose, and Dan Haley up there on their election for the year 2013-14. I look forward to working with you closely in the coming year. We will soon celebrate this college's, great college's 89th annual commencement. This ancient and annual ritual reminds us that we are all part of the same mission to serve our students. I thank you for your teaching excellence and patient support of your students that has helped to realize the dreams of the nearly 2,000 graduating students of the PCC class of 2013. Sincerely yours, Mark. So with that was my comment. I appreciate the minute. So have a good meeting.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Next is Vice President Miller.
Thank you, President Handy. I got a statement from the Board of Trustees that I have been asked to read, and I'm going to send copies around for everybody to have, both at the table and also in the audience. So, I will read. To the Academic Senate, I might add while it's going around real quick that unfortunately, Board President Martin and Board Vice President Fellow could not be here today, and else they would have been here to present this information themselves. So it's addressed to the Academic Senate, Pasadena City College, Pasadena, California. Dear President Handy and members of the Academic Senate, first, the Board of Trustees sincerely thanks President Handy and district Senate officers for your service to the Senate and to the college. The board also congratulates President-elect Eduardo Cairo and the newly elected officers, Professors Shirley Douglas, Pat Rose, and Dan Haley, for their election for 2013-2014. The Superintendent President and the board look forward to working with you closely in the coming year. In reviewing your agenda, the board observes that the Senate will today conduct a second reading on a no confidence motion proposed by Senator Lisa Michelson. Since the members of the board may not be able to attend today's meeting at 3 p.m., we respectfully request that this order be read to the Senate and inserted into the record as public comment on this agenda item. We wish to offer 3 points for your consideration. 1, the board, not the superintendent president, made the decisions that are being called into question. On November 7, 2012, the board publicly adopted 11 goals for the college and then charged the superintendent president with implementing them. The superintendent president has carried out this board's policy, and criticism directed at him is criticism that is rightly shared by every member of this board. He will continue to administer with our full confidence, and by extension, that of the voting public. So, in complete fairness and accuracy, any resolution of no confidence should include the Board of Trustees. 2, we see no need to rush to decide today. The board fully acknowledges and respects those who disagree with this decision, but these decisions are now before her this summer in formal fact-finding and a hearing before an administrative law judge. We would hope that the Senate would await the formal legal rulings by her before making its final determination. 3, we applaud the Senate for being on the side of due process and fairness by scheduling today's agenda item only as a second hearing. The board therefore hopes that final action on the motion will be deferred until the board and the superintendent president have been given the opportunity to consult and confer on the issues at hand with the Senate officers and leadership. Whatever the Senate decides, tomorrow the superintendent president will continue our most important work to bring all factors together to develop a shared vision for moving PCC forward. It is time for all of us to create a spirit to talk with each other rather than at each other. Finally, today, April 15, is Jackie Robinson Day throughout Major League Baseball. Today, the entire world will honor our alumnus, Jackie Robinson, for his courage and commitment to the cause of social justice and opportunity for all. May all of us at PCC mark this day, not in further discord, but in unity as we join hands in Mr. Robinson's cause. Sincerely yours, John Martin, for the PACCD Board of Trustees, John H. Martin, President. Thank you.
And next, Dr. Bell.
Thank you, President. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be brief. I just want to, mine is more an information piece and way of an update. I wanted to get to this body an updated discussion on the planned reorganization that can prepare from our current academic division to a schools model. And I know that's been out there for discussion, and we haven't had a close, comprehensive discussion on that as of yet. The identified date for the implementation of that was the start of fall 13. We're not going to be able to get there fall 13, so I wanted to make sure that all of you, and I will get communication out to the entire faculty before we complete the semester, that while we are delaying, we are not moving away from the implementation, we are delaying the implementation date. So for all faculty who will not be teaching in either one of the intersession, the extended spring, or the summer, when we come back in the fall, we will come back organized in our current division alignments, and then we will work to get the deans of those schools, after we advertise and recruit for the deans of the school, we will get those individuals named and appointed, and we'll move forward from there. The recruitment process for the deans, obviously, well, maybe it isn't obvious, obviously, will be one that will include faculty, classified, and students in that process. So it will be a full-vetted process before those deans are named and in place. But I realized that we got to this point in the semester, and it was a high probability that faculty may leave and not be sure what was going to be the case when they came back. So that really is more of an update, if you will, rather than anything what's going on now.
Can I ask a question? When you say deans, do you mean our super uber deans, or are you talking about deans of the division? I'm a little confused what you mean by that term.
I wish I had brought a schematic and you can see it, a super uber dean. I've heard terms like uber deans, co-deans, I've heard all these different things. When I say deans, and the things we're talking about, saying super uber deans will be the dean, the incumbent dean for each one of the schools. Okay,
And are we at 5 now?
you're at 5.
And then what will those individuals who are overseeing actual faculty be able?
That is to be determined. Okay, and that's another reason why it was, prefer to go forward, that's a discussion that faculty would be engaged in with those uber deans, if you will, when they're pretty good. I'm gonna take a few questions. I really didn't want to dominate the floor like this, so maybe I can take 1 or 2 more questions, because I really didn't want to do this. Yes, Mark?
I'm just wondering, is this schematic for the plan reorganization, is it posted somewhere? Because I've been trying to find it and I can't find it.
No, it's not posted anywhere, and I apologize for the confusion. We were waiting for some critical parts, elements to come up, and I just got all the information together. So I will be communicating with all of the faculty across the summer, and I don't know if anyone has done this in my office before. Communicate with faculty, written communication across the summer, so I know I've done that in the past. But as we get this at the organization, as the draft fleshes out to a final format, I will that they're going to, so coming back in fall, faculty will know what it's going to look like, but it will just be a draft, because it won't be finalized until obviously we get back, the hiring, new deans, and go forward from there.
Is there a draft available for dissemination now?
I could have a draft ready by in the next day or so.
Okay,
And so
I would like
would you like me to get that to President Hampton? Or- Okay, I'll get it to Julie for the evening.
Does the administration have a new implementation date in mind, or has that not been determined yet?
It hasn't been firmed up yet. My anticipation is that it will probably be no earlier than the middle of the semester, because I don't think we're going to get the incumbent deans for the schools hired, if you will, recruited and hired anytime before probably the latter part of September, early October. So we're going to be looking at something that will probably start transitioning mid-semester into the calendar.
Mark?
So for the people that are moving, does that mean we're not moving right now then?
Or could we be by moving?
Moving like where we're at from a better place?
Into the new building.
Into the new building?
Moving real, oh no, moving into the new building? No, but are you talking about going over to the Performing Arts? No, yeah, still moving. That's
Still moving?
Yeah, that still happens, yeah, that's still happening. The physical move, yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Get your cardboard box.
Just not the mental move.
Just not the alignment, yeah, but the packed boxes, but yeah.
Melissa, go ahead.
So there will be a realignment.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Bell.
Thank you, folks. I have to adjourn now to a physical therapy session, so thank you.
I don't have such a good excuse, but I want to leave you to your business, so thank you all very much.
Thank you. Okay, David Kuat? David.
Thanks. The first one's done. I'm going to ask about moving up to the conference and calendar. Just to mention that in our division, over 80% of E&T tenured faculty have given written notice to our colleague, Deb Bird, telling her to support the no conference proposal. And I'm asking respectfully and expecting that she do so directly and immediately without diluting our clear intent. She's chosen in good faith to represent us, and I appreciate her honesty and willingness to act on her behalf.
Okay, thank you, David. Okay, Erwin.
Hi, my name is Arvind Veda, and my comment consists of 3 points. My first point is to defend Dr. Rocha from accusations that are either personal, unverified, vague, or just plain unprofessional in some way. I wish they would stop. They make the rest of us look bad, and I hope they don't influence your decision. My second point is in support of the vote of no confidence for 3 reasons. Compare his recent conciliatory letter, the listening letter, with his hostile contract to the union. The last best and, last best and final. They just don't match at all. Don't match. Which one should we go by? Well, as far as I know, his last best and final offer is still his official stance on specific and concrete issues which are relevant. The other reason, despite his pleas in his recent letter to consult faculty 2 by 2, there is still no mention of effective consulting committees. And this is what I hope the core of the vote of no confidence is going to be about, not consulting faculty committees effectively. Last reason, we the faculty that you represent really need you to vote for this. The process of healing begins with the resolve to not tolerate further injury. And we need this foreclosure so we can start fresh next semester. And my last point is positive. Dr. Rocha has done some good things as well. So I am glad to have learned that this vote of no confidence is not about making him quit, but about making him change. Thank you.
Hey, Frederick Major, is that this right? Frederick?
Yes, that's me. Hi, how are you doing today? It's all right, first time. I just want to come talk to you guys today about a few issues that I've seen. One is the prior registration for veterans being on the chopping block. I do believe that the school did open up some doors and some loops for us. However, the few of us that had issues with putting on the wait list and hoping that wait list would fall through. For instance, the class that I was trying to sign up for, it was almost like a Monday through Friday all-day class. So therefore, if I was to put myself on the wait list for that class, I can't go sign up for another class. It blocks me on the time. So I had to go ahead and just throw that class away and just sign up for another 4-unit class. I do appreciate the school going through the works, trying to get us priority registration, but it's not the same. I spent, and I believe Professor Hennis can vouch for me, I wasn't in his class on April 8th because I was having to sign up for a class that I usually don't have to do. And it took me 17 hours and 20 minutes just to get into the system to find out that I couldn't even get the class that I wanted. And sooner found out that the class that I wanted was already taken about 5 hours after the registration had opened the doors. My second concern is I've been hearing through the grapevine and also heard through the paper that associated students might be taking a hit on their funding. My question is to the board, because I've already emailed it to the president, President Martin, is how can the school afford not to charge any students for the health and registration fees as they have in the past? It's usually $16 for winter or summer. Those $16, some of that funding does go to associated students. I know their funding's already been cut. Does this mean that just less funding is going to go because we're not going to collect money from anyone? I mean, I don't have a problem not paying that, but I'm sure all the clubs on campus that utilize that money as well do. So I'm just wondering if that's been brought up to the board, if there's been maybe some money on the back end that's going to cover up for all that loss. Just off the top of my head, $16 from 10,000 students is $160,000. That's quite a bit of money just going down the drain. And I think there's a lot more than 10,000 students going to PCC. Thank you.
Okay, and is this, Melissa, is this yours? That's me. Okay, I'm going to save your one for the no confidence so we get that in a moment. So let's get about the letter.
Yeah, letter. Hi, I just wanted to address, I'm Melissa Marcus. I'd like to address President Rocha's open letter to the faculty. First, he never really apologized like he did on the letter to staff. Second, he doesn't acknowledge what the problem is that we need to heal from. And third, he proposes solutions to a problem he doesn't identify, which are for him to listen more and to, quote, change the very nature of administration itself. If I read the last part, if I had read this last part on one of my students' papers, I'd write in the margin, needs more development, how? He doesn't provide details, nor does he wait to hear from those to whom he purports to be committed to listening. His solution reenacts the problem of announcing changes without really listening, first, to the needs of the college community. Also, how can we in twos be expected to go to his office and tell him what isn't working or is in our areas? We have committees and deans in place that give breadth to the overall organization of the college. These past several years, many of us have already been involved in the open communication process to which he alludes. Personally, I never felt I couldn't talk to Dr. Rocha. It's what the talk would result in, if anything, that I questioned. In May 2011, I wrote an email to the board and Rocha expressing my dismay at the cost of hiring 5 new VPs at a time when we were supposedly strapped for cash. Dr. Rocha was cordial in his email response and pleased that we were engaging each other and talking. He said, quote, "The root of all problems is the lack of trust," end quote, and that, quote, "the culture here is rooted in distrust and adversarial relationships between administration and staff. Over time," he wrote, "trust is rooted in actions." I could not agree with him more. That email could have been written yesterday instead of 2 years ago, and unfortunately, his actions have already produced a great deal of distrust and uncertainty that has led to this vote of no confidence. I also just want to remind you that the last Senate meeting, a colleague from Santiago College came and shared the same concerns we're having. That was 13 years ago, and if things haven't changed since then, what will make things change now? For the sake of our institution and all the lives he's already affected, as we've been witnessing, our students, our colleagues, our own, it's time as senators to address the wrongs, take the bull by the horns, lead our healing process, and move on. Thank you.
Marjorie, what was the item you wanted to
I
address?
just wanted to talk about program review a little bit.
Now, this would be the appropriate time for that. Please. Yeah, please go ahead.
Based on the vote that we had the last time, I thought that maybe if, as a Senate, we're saying we want to be responsible for program review, maybe we should do some kind of subcommittee or something ASAP to get on top of that, because the goal was not to undermine accreditation. The goal was just to put things in alignment. So I don't know if we want to wait 4 months before we start having that discussion, or if that's a discussion we need to maybe start having over the summer. I don't know. And then I was also, as a suggestion, with that committee, possibly we could try, when we're thinking who among us would like to do it, maybe an even number of people who supported those changes to the policy and people who opposed that, so we can kind of get both positions and coming with something possibly in the middle, and then maybe we can, as part of that committee, reach out to the existing IEC and see what they're doing, so we can kind of get program review in a way that we can all be happy with, and that is in compliance with shared government.
I would defer that question to President-elect Carol, so I would encourage you to talk to him and the new team about proceeding forward. Okay. I have one, Deborah Wood, just turned in.
Hello, my name is Deborah Wood, and I'm chemistry faculty here at PCC. And before I say anything, I just want to thank this group very much for all of your incredible, dedicated efforts during what has been a really, really difficult year. Really difficult year. I'm here to address the issue of the no confidence vote with Dr. Rocha, and to just bring 2 things from my own discipline in chemistry that I want to lead you to consider. With my students, many of whom are considering careers in healthcare, medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, one of the things I really have to impress upon them is, first, when you're in a crisis situation, in a problem situation, do no harm. Even when you're trying to come and fix something and you have the very best of intentions, you have to consider your actions and the outcomes and whether or not, even with the best of intentions, it makes the problem worse. Well, I don't have to elucidate the concerns that we have here. We're well aware of the problems we've experienced with Dr. Rocha's administration. The question is, what course of action are we willing to take or considering taking, and will it in fact make the problem worse? After I went to the very difficult board meeting several weeks ago, not this last one, but the previous one, I left there with this strong impression that whether Dr. Rocha stays as president or considers leaving a difficult road for us either way. So the first, do no harm. The second, with my students, look at the data and draw the best conclusions from it. Certainly the faculty response to the ad hoc poll about no confidence. Those who responded overwhelmingly voted no confidence. We're clear on that. But looking at the numbers of who responded, it seemed to me that approximately 45% of the faculty did not return a ballot either way. Those who did, overwhelmingly no confidence. But there is a significant group of faculty here that chose not to respond. So what's the best interpretation of that data? I certainly do not feel that the ones who did not respond were saying, we have confidence in Dr. Rocha's administration. They had the opportunity to mark that ballot, and they did not. Here's how I'm interpreting the data. They are concerned about risking further polarization in the campus climate at this particular time, and chose to just wait and hope that positive change would take place without further tension and stress. And I believe that number is worth looking at. In other words, right now, the data does not suggest to me as a scientist that there is a mandate from the entire faculty for a vote of no confidence or a significant number to justify a vote of no confidence. And that if we push to do that at this time, we risk polarizing the faculty amongst each other, and that consequence to me is alarming, seriously alarming. Because now that sets up a possibility for a message to be communicated to the community that could negatively impact what kind of leadership we're able to attract to this college. Right, every administration has a finite tenure. Who would be interested in coming to the college in future years? And more importantly, what sort of faculty we would be able to attract, the quality of the faculty based on the spirit of community we have amongst ourselves. So I think it's very important to look at the data and draw the correct conclusions and to reach out to more faculty. I know that in natural sciences, I have not been approached by a Senate representative asking me about my opinion of no confidence from the academic senate. And I feel that that would need to happen amongst more faculty before we're ready to make this vote. Thank you.
Okay, Jane Holland.
Okay, this is more or less the same issue, but I was disturbed the last meeting that the vote of no confidence had not been placed on the agenda as been requested, and it has now. I was also bothered by the comment that it had to be vocal, and then names would be associated with members' votes. I've been the president of 4 organizations, and I'm not trying to brag, but I've never seen that happen in any of the organizations. So to convince myself, I checked Robert's rules, and this is a summary. It is not the role of the president to keep issues from the agenda if they are issues of concern to the organization. Voting by ballot is permissible. The main concern of this form of voting is secrecy. And it is resorted to when the question is of such a nature that some members might hesitate to vote publicly for their true sentiments. It can be so ordered by a majority vote or by a general consent. Such motions are debatable if not on the agenda. However, the no confidence vote is on for this week. So to vote by ballot, members write their vote, yes or no, put it on a piece of paper, fold it. This method is when secrecy is desired. And I heard the comment that nobody wanted their names, or it would be bad to have names attached, or it might be intimidating. The ballots are collected by one designated person, and the voter's name is marked off as vote is handed to the person collecting. Thus, the unsigned ballots are secret. Only the members checked off have voted, but there is no record of individual votes with names. And so, under the conditions of the school at this time, I want to remove the concern that you would have to do an open vote.
Okay, Sarah?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Belknap, and I wanted to offer a couple of things from a student perspective.
I'd like to start by thanking you guys for the work you put in all semester, not just in this committee, but also in your classrooms. I've attended both a four-year private school and PCC, and I found that the education I've received here rivals and surpasses anything I've ever seen. So that's one thing we've got going for us as a community. So thank you for that. And I just wanted to address a couple of points about a potential vote of no confidence in the administration. As you know, the cancellation of winter was largely unpopular with students, and the students have already had both a vote of censure and a vote of no confidence in the current administration. I'm particularly interested in one of the points that the Board of Trustees brought to our attention, which is that they also supported the removal of winter, and that they should also be included in this. While I do understand that they supported the removal of winter, they also left it up to our college administration to deal with the logistics involved in removing the winter intersession. Winter, if we'd had a winter this 2013, would have been something that we could put on our transcripts when we applied to Cal States and to UCs in this fall for 2013. Because of the way that the calendar process works and the transfer process works, the class in winter would transfer, the class in summer, in what was summer 1 and is now being called extended spring, maybe wouldn't transfer. And the class in the second session of summer definitely would not transfer for this upcoming calendar year. Everything, of course, would be fine for 1 year around. I give you that background just to let you know that this problem was one of the concerns that students brought up on August 29th at the meeting. One of the concerns we brought up was that we would not be able to take the units we were planning on taking and transfer on time. This is going to delay us, a lot of us in some cases a year, for some people even more. And that was a concern that we had. We brought this to the administration. We voiced our concern. And we were told that it was going to be fine, it was going to be handled. There was a full-page ad in the Courier that said that these classes in the spring 1 semester were going to transfer. Or in the extended spring / summer 1, we're going to transfer. That's not the case for most institutions. We found out in February, I think it was late January, early February, that a lot of schools were rejecting students on the basis of when these classes had been completed. Not that they weren't getting the right classes or that they had mismanaged their ed plan, but simply that the class they were going to take in winter that they now had to take in summer 1 was too late and past the deadline and not acceptable. Our associated students got word that this was happening and thought, hey, oh my gosh, I thought you guys were going to handle the logistical end. You forced this change on us. And then the administration's job was to make sure that they were able to deliver on the promises that they made and make sure that these classes were able to transfer. Our associated students started an emailing campaign to Cal States, UCs, and private schools that our students were transferring to. The reason this is necessary is that our college administration appears not to have done that. I have here the results of a Freedom of Information Act request that myself and another student filed to ask for all correspondence between Dr. Bell and the UC and Cal State system between August 29th and then the date of the student no confidence vote. And the earliest email that we find where he discusses transfer at all that they turned over to us was after the initial students in late February or in late January, early February came with Humboldt. So there were no email correspondences resulting or bringing up anything about whether or not summer 1 or spring 2 or summer 1, whatever, was going to transfer. So there was no written correspondence. There was no information, and the bulk of the correspondence actually takes place after the student vote of no confidence. So what this means is that the logistics, the administration, the way of handling how this change was going to occur was very severely mismanaged. Very severely. And I really like Dr. Bell as a person. I don't want to come across as picking on him. He seems like a really nice guy. But the fact is that the evidence about how this administration handled this change is that they did it very poorly. There are students who now have been rejected from Cal States and UCs because this winter was canceled. They're going to be here for another year. And it's not just that they're going to be here for another year, it's that the people who were in charge of making sure that this transition would go smoothly didn't do anything to make that happen and told us that everything was going to be okay. So the board might feel like they're partially responsible for the decision, but I do feel like there's a significant amount of responsibility that's on the people whose job it was to make this transition go smoothly, who very clearly did not do that. And again, this is February of this year, so this semester was when all of the work began happening to try to get students to transfer, which was well after the application deadlines for most schools. So, just so you guys know.
Margaret, now, would you like to speak when we get to the item, or do you want to speak now?
Well, it
Okay,
seems,
we'll get to the item very shortly, so I'll leave it to you guys to decide.
it seems like it's appropriate now.
Now?
So.
Please, go ahead, Margaret.
I'm actually reading this on behalf of one of my colleagues. I'm writing to express my support for the academic senate's taking of a vote of no confidence in President Rocha. Based on comments made at a recent board of trustees meeting, President Rocha seems to believe that only 14 or 15 faculty oppose him. The truth is that only 16 faculty supported him in the recent vote of no confidence by faculty. It was 188 faculty who made clear that they have no confidence in President Rocha's leadership. With those numbers, I feel it behooves the Senate to move forward with the vote. Such a vote would be in line with the value statement of the Academic Senate for the health and community colleges, particularly related to leadership. The Academic Senate champions the leadership role of faculty at their colleges and fosters effective faculty participation in governance to effect change. The Senate is respectful and reflective in its working relationships and expects accountability from its leaders. In all its activities, the Academic Senate adheres to the highest professional ethics and standards. In terms of voice, the Academic Senate promotes faculty primacy in academic and professional matters as established in statute and regulation. The Senate, through leadership and empowerment, endeavors to make each local Senate the voice of faculty in college and district consultation and decision-making. The Senate values thoughtful discourse and deliberation that incorporates diverse perspectives as a means of reaching reasoned and beneficial results. Thus, so long as the vote is taken with respect and reflection, and as a result of thoughtful discourse and deliberation, with the Senate adhering to the highest professional ethics and standards, there is every reason to move forward. Thank you for your dedication and service. Sincerely, Manny Correa.
Ms. Hattie, do you want to speak now?
Right. This also concerns the vote of no confidence. If you read carefully the two emails that President Rocha sent us last week and this week, he says he wants to have a collegial conversation with the faculty, 2 by 2 by 2. He promises to listen and learn to support a truly shared vision. He says the task of healing has little to do with policy or accreditation or union contracts, but the Academic Senate's vote of no confidence has everything to do with policy and accreditation. It is because of his policy to violate shared governance that has caused such an unhealthy environment. And in this unhealthy environment, I think the PCC will be jeopardizing its accreditation. Case in point, the registration fiasco or farce that occurred last week with the new extended spring that was implemented at the last moment to solve the problem that our students who could not take the classes that they needed winter session now needed to take extended spring classes so they could transfer in the fall. However, as we have learned that this difficulty was both anticipated and addressed by both faculty and students last August when the Board of Trustees canceled winter session, and these arguments have been continually repeated and ignored until now. So why exactly is this vote of no confidence necessary? First, a vote of no confidence does not remove President Rocha as president of the college, nor does it seek to do so. But it sends a message to the Board of Trustees, to the PCC students and community, and to the ACCJC that the Academic Senate has no confidence that he can maintain a healthy shared governance system, implement major changes responsibly, or provide effective leadership to the campus community based on his past and current management style. This vote of no confidence is the only way to get President Rocha's attention. And I do want to remind you all that this email that was sent out to us Tuesday night inviting us to come in and chat 2 by 2 by 2 only occurred after the fiasco on Monday. All right? So this vote of no confidence is the only way I see that we can get his attention. And what he needs to do is not chat with us 2 by 2, but to restore right now the spirit and power behind shared governance.
And last, this will be the end of public comment. I'm going to close it, but is Kelly Camacho.
Sure. I apologize that I'm on my phone. I know professors hate when you're on your phone, but I have my notes on this, so sorry. So I basically just wanted to bring up this charming letter from the Board of Trustees and like from another student perspective on why the vote of no confidence is really important to students and to us. There's been a lot of talk now that the campus community, both students and faculty, have been taking a lot of action to stand up for the quality of PCC, the quality of academic integrity, the quality of the way that we treat those who work here and those who go to school here. And now that we're standing up for what's right, now is when we supposedly get this talk about, oh, making sure that we don't damage PCC's reputation and think about Jackie Robinson and all this different stuff, but there's no talking about what the detrimental decisions that have been made would have affected our prestigious alumni and how we haven't necessarily had prestigious alumni lately. We had prestigious alumni when we didn't make these sorts of decisions. And starting back from problems like canceling winter intersession at the last minute, it was perfectly okay for the administration to make decisions at the last minute when it suited them. When decisions affected tens of thousands of people, both part-timers who have to work at various different institutions, to students who have to plan their schooling alongside working or taking care of families, that was okay. It was okay to make those last-minute decisions. But now, this no confidence vote, which isn't really a last-minute decision, which has been brewing in the minds of faculty for, I will guesstimate, months, now the Board of Trustees thinks waiting about a decision is an okay decision, when they wouldn't wait for us. When only one Board of Trustee member said, wait, maybe we should discuss this. Nah, let's just cancel winter, it'll be fine. And it wasn't fine. And neither is the registration fiasco. Maybe Jackie Robinson would have had a day job and he couldn't have stood in line for stood in line online and then come to campus and spent a total of 17 hours trying to get a summer class. These sort of decisions are ridiculous, and those are the sorts of things that is damaging PCC's reputation, not faculty and students who are standing up for PCC. These decisions are the things that are damaging PCC. So I would urge you to vote yes on the no confidence vote, not only for faculty, but also for students who've also had our own no confidence vote, both an ad hoc, not a no confidence vote, but an ad hoc petition in favor of winter session and an official AS no confidence vote. So please just consider both students and the quality of PCC today. Thank you.
Can I just make a quick comment about I didn't fill out a card because I didn't know I was going to get this letter during public comment.
Okay.
I just want to talk about number 2 on this letter from the Board of Trustees. What seems to be happening, it seems to me anyway, by the administration and the board, is they keep trying to make this a contractual issue. I'm the lead negotiator for the union, the co-lead negotiator. And this is not a contractual issue, okay? So what we do in here is completely different from negotiations. And what says here is, it says these decisions are now before PERB this summer in formal fact-finding and hearing before the administrative law judge. We hope that, okay, so they're hoping that we're going to wait on a vote for this. This has to do with a PERB action, a filing that the union made. We believe it's an unfair labor practice for the administration to change the calendar without negotiating with us, which is what we believe they did. This vote of no confidence, in my understanding, has to do with shared governance, which is a completely different thing. And I don't think anybody can question as to whether this calendar that we're currently on, which does not have winter intercession, went through one shared governance body. It couldn't have, because the calendar we approved and the board approved in May, we didn't meet any shared governance during the summer, and in August, the new calendar was approved. It came directly from the administration without any input from any shared governance body. So to suggest that this PERB ruling is going to decide whether it's okay to have a calendar like this or not, that's like saying, well, if PERB says it's not an unfair labor practice, then you all should be okay with shared governance being ignored and just having a calendar implemented on this campus without any input from the shared governance body. And those are two very different things. So the suggestion in here that we wait until the PERB thing, they're unrelated matters. One is a contractual issue, and one is a shared governance issue. And in my opinion, the vote of no confidence is not about the contract. It's about shared governance, and we are the body that is here to protect shared governance. And that's why I think that's it's just an important point that I think they're conflicting two things, not conflicting, what do you say? Conflating two things there, and it's very, I think it confuses people, and they've been doing this repeatedly. So, and I will say that again, on that Larry Mantle show on April 1st, I realize it was April 1st, but I don't think it was a fool, Dr. Rocha said the record will show that this calendar went fully through the shared governance process, which is absolutely not true. So, anyway.
Okay. Joe, you've been very, very patient. So please go ahead and do your smoking policy changes as we agreed earlier.
Don't be blowing smoke
Don't be that smoke.
Does everyone have a copy? I brought 50 copies. I just want to
I think it's in your packet, but it's passed out.
well, actually, you may have the full policy, but I wrote out a separate memo for distribution today. So everyone has that. Okay. So basically, I'm going to try to be as brief as I can. Our current smoking policy is that we are, and this is verbiage, this is rhetoric, and semantics. So I want to be very clear that PCC is a smoke-free campus. As we stand right now in our current policy, it is a smoke-free campus with designated smoking areas. Some people want it to be a 100% smoke-free campus, and that means no designated smoking areas. So it's very subtle. So when people are banging on the fist on the table and they want a smoke-free campus, we have it. We have designated smoking areas. So you have to be very clear when you're trying to discern what you want your campus to be. Is it 100% smoke-free, or is it smoke-free? The majority of campuses across the state are what we are, just for the record. Okay? So during the past year, I don't want to tell you how long I've been on the Health and Safety Committee. However, during the last year, Dr. Rocha reconstituted or brought together the Health and Safety Committee, and I am now co-chair, which was passed or it was voted on last May. And so that has predominantly been what the Health and Safety Committee has worked on during the last year. In the past, our campus policy was more of this is what our campus policy is, that we're 100% smoke-free with designated areas, and we as a body were supposed to have a smoke-free campus without enforcement. I'll just go to the center of the net. But practice has been that we don't have enforcement. In case you're unaware of that, we do not have an enforcement policy. It was, please remind people to move on, please remind people that we have a designated smoking area, but you know that we have smokers who smoke and litter our campus with cigarette butts. So, and they're not in designated smoking areas necessarily. However, the campus policy, the Health and Safety Committee has been meeting, and I would like to highlight for you what the differences are that we're proposing now. We would like to keep the campus, what we're suggesting, and I'm here just as an information piece, and if you would like to give some feedback, I'm happy to take it from you today. What we'd like to do at this point is keep the policy as it is, that we would be a smoke-free campus with designated smoking areas. We're going to change and that is the district policy. That's the district policy. So if people want to smoke, they have a designated area to go to. Currently, we don't have that. But we'd also like to add in the procedures part, which would be something that would be in the purview of administration or the campus constituent groups, that we would prohibit additional items on campus, such as cigarettes, cigars, hookahs, pipes, smokeless devices, such as e-cigarettes, and chewing tobacco, snuff, and biddies. All those things are things that create smoke or are at risk for our public health here. What would be different? We never had anything in enforcement. So what the Campus Health Safety Committee is suggesting is that we do move to an enforcement piece of it. And the enforcement piece would be that our campus police would be citing people who were smoking in the out of the areas for designated smoking areas. How do we do that? Well, in the years past, The campus police didn't want to put their sworn officers on cigarette patrol. You know, they had more important things to do. And quite frankly, what I learned behind the scenes was that we didn't have the legal ability to do that. So in 2009, when we made our campus a smoke-free campus, we didn't have the law behind us to enforce it anyway. So in January of 2011, AB 795 signed into law that higher institutions could do that. They could cite violators at a maximum of $100 per offense. So what the Campus Health and Safety Committee would like to do is put in a tiered violation situation where if someone is found to be smoking outside the area, that we would have sworn officers be able to cite, that students would be charged $25 at the first offense, $50 at the second, $75 at the third, and then a records hold would be after the third offense, and then have to meet with the Dean of Student Affairs to discuss their misconduct. All the fines would be paid through the parking, the similar system that we have, the outside agency that handles our parking citations. And all the citations have to be paid in 21 days, or it goes off to a collection agency. The enforcement staff would follow the same order, in which staff would be paying, their fine would be a little different. It would be $35 for 3 offenses, and then up to 100, and stay at 100. And again, it would not be any kind of disciplinary actions for employees. It would actually just be, you pay the fine, and you don't want to pay it, then it goes to the collection agency. And as well for visitors, we thought the visitors would pay, we're not going to see visitors maybe more than once, but they would be at $35 per violation. There is a way to put this into place, just like we have it for our citations, just to bring that up. The Health and Safety Committee thought it would be wise to do a campus-wide campaign, upgrade the smoking areas because they aren't attractive. They don't invite smokers particularly. They don't invite non-smokers either. We have an informational campaign through our social media, our campus areas, our publications, and we talk during the summer. Our intention was to talk during the summer months and Welcome Day to make sure people know we're a campus smoke-free environment. Student Health Services already offers cessation smoking services to our students. So we would make a major campaign and let students know more about that. That, by the way, is a free cessation smoking service at our campus. So students come in, they enroll for $15. If they attend all 6 or 8 sessions, they get their $15 back. They get nicotine replacement aids and personal counseling for free. If they need the antidepressant Wellbutrin for their smoking cessation service, they can get that for free. So this is how the student health fee is used, is to give the students who need that service for free, with the catch that they have to spend $15 to enroll, but they get it back if they attend all 3, or all 6 sessions. And then, again, I just reiterate that we have campus officers. Chief John Yoder will have reserve officers available to recite people. And we had thought we'd have a grace period for the beginning of the fall semester. This was predicated on the idea that we would get this through. I don't think it's going to happen. But this is the path that the Health and Safety Committee wanted to make, was that we would have a grace period for the first month of this fall semester, and that we would then begin citing on October 1st, 2015. So that is a memo that I put it in briefly for you, and also I attached the California Colleges and Universities policies that you can be aware of all the campuses that are like us. There are a few that are 100% smoke-free policies, and there are some that are 100% tobacco-free policies. What we had intended to do was to try not to go to the Board of Trustees and try to get the district policy changed, but rather just work with what we currently have. I can tell you that there are people who really want this to be a 100% smoke-free policy campus. However, if we don't have the enforcement, there's no point in going there. It forces people not to smoke. And if you just say, please excuse me, you're not supposed to smoke here, people aren't doing that.
I think you're going to be the timekeeper today. So how much time do we have?
So we have about 3 minutes left for this discussion.
Okay. So Mark, please go ahead.
My question is under the enforcement. Basically, it says that you're expecting people on campus just to enforce it. It's saying if they report, the way it's worded, if you report someone, then the campus police shall give a citation. So does that mean that you're expecting other students and faculty to report someone who's smoking to the campus police?
No, we're not expecting it, it's just they have the option to do it if they choose to do it.
And if they don't do that, then how is there any enforcement for this? I don't see any different enforcement than what we have now. They don't enforce what's here, like skateboards and all that other crap.
Okay.
They don't enforce anything.
At this point, there hasn't been enforcement because, well, we didn't have a law behind us. Now that we're coming back and looking at the policy, we now have a law behind us that we can enforce it. And I think what's going to, by putting teeth into enforcement, which is the fine, I think you're going to have more compliance. Other campuses, there are 2 of the other campuses that are going through fines, and the fine smoking is less of a problem on their campuses.
But how does that get the police to actually enforce
Chief
the
Yoder
rules?
is in support of this. That's the difference. There will be designated officers who will be there to enforce this policy.
About the upgrading of campus designated smoking areas, I've noticed that the one over here has been upgraded, there's planters and bench and whatnot, but my students don't complain about the beauty of it, they complain about the distance from their classrooms. And so I don't know if you're looking into, this is probably opposite to what you're thinking, but I mean, maybe offering more zones. I mean, I know that's probably the opposite. But then there's, if you're not gonna do that, then we could, probably discuss this more, but if you could put, about the smoking cessation, maybe it could be in those areas that students are smoking, just.
Oh, yes. Well, there are other plans here that are looking at the upgrades. We wanted to make them uniform, and we have information there about cessation smoking
Okay,
as
and
well.
then one more thing was about signage. There should be more permanent signs around campus. And I noticed you're going to put informational campaign, but we need something permanent.
Yes, we agree.
Yeah, hi. I'm wondering about the item 2 here, items prohibited. And the way I read this, you're not allowed to walk across campus with cigarettes in your pocket. And my other, that's a statement. A question would be, why not e-cigarettes? They don't actually create smoke, they create vapor. And thirdly, the smokeless tobacco, as far as chewing, I'm wondering why that would be prohibited as well.
So there's rules of cessation as well. So it seems like you're saying that chewing tobacco is, well, no, the smokeless. Okay, well, that I will save for another discussion. I'll just say one thing, they're not FDA approved. They do have adult ones in them that are just as, they're carcinogenic as well. And there are other campuses that are not allowing them because the vapor, even though it's a water vapor, is a problem. But I would be happy to discuss that at another time.
Yolanda?
I guess I was looking at the policy and where it talks about enforcement and that for students, it holds their records, but it also sends them to collections. And I was wondering if we have to be that harsh on students because wouldn't it be enough to hold their records? I know that students are poor, they get themselves into these situations where they have to pay these fines and then they don't have the money and then they don't pay the fines. And then, but that follows them for the next 7 years of their life with credit, which is a huge thing in getting a job or where they look at your credit. And so I'm just wondering if there's a way that for students, the enforcement could, and that it could have a records hold, and then when they graduate, they're going to want to take care of that records hold and they will pay their fines and without having have been sent to collection.
So Pat and then Martha, and then we can do time on most of them.
Actually, well, I'll because Matt brought it up.
Okay. So Pat?
I want to mention a couple of things. For the last several years, because I knew it wasn't being enforced, I tried to be polite, but I have gone and asked a good number of students to please put out their cigarettes. And I have to say, about 3 years ago, most of them were very cooperative. They would say thank you. They would physically, put out the cigarette, whatever. But lately, I'm I'm realizing that the ones who are still smoking kind of flagrantly, and behind our building, if you think there's no smoking, just come and visit us. But the signage, I don't think is the issue. Because I have said to many, have you looked right behind you over your shoulder at that big sign that's posted right there? The sign telling them this is not a designated smoking area, but they're going right on smoking. And some of them now, even when I ask them very politely to please not smoke in this area, they just brush it off and they look at me like, so what are you going to do about it? And so I think part of our educational campaign should definitely include reminders about the fact that if they don't pay, don't meet their responsibility, and it's turned over to a collection agency, that could impact their record. They should know that. I think some of those who are continuing to smoke, frankly, are going to continue to do it until something pushes them in a different direction. I hate to be so cold-hearted, but maybe it will be helpful if we can upgrade our current, the smoking areas. They've never been really decent. The only one that really is used is the one down in front of Shadford or beyond, and students will gather down there. I've seen a number of them. But that place looks nice. I mean, it's clean, it's in the shrubs. It may create a little smoke down there for people who have to walk by. But no matter where we put it, somebody's going to have to walk by that area. Even people coming in from the parking lot will walk by the area. But this place has always looked out here, for example, just like a sandbox. And, I mean, really, I've felt sorry for smokers who are willing to go out there. And it hasn't been very many. So I would just like to say, though, that I do agree with Mark. The key here is enforcement. If our own local police and safety are willing to enforce this, to write up the citations, I don't think the flagrant smokers will continue. But I think unless there's some enforcement, they will. Because just asking them politely doesn't seem to be working any longer.
Okay, that closes the discussion. Thank you, Pat, for being very patient for 3 weeks, or 3 meetings. Okay, by the vote earlier, the next item that we'll be considering is the emergency motion from Krista. So please, go ahead, Krista.
I just have a very brief report on the calendar, and then we'll be asking for you for your first of all, I wish to acknowledge and thank Kathy Barnes, who is the administrative assistant in Student Learning Services, for her professionalism and commitment. Kathy has worked under duress to support this committee, in addition to her regular duties, and without additional compensation. She's done an exceptional job, and I have the deepest respect and appreciation for her and all the other staff here at PCC who have been pulling double duty since Rosa took office. Since the board imposed the calendar we are currently laboring under, last August, the calendar standing committee has been challenged to fulfill its charge, and I'll just remind you what that is. The charge of this committee is to recommend a calendar that supports the pedagogical and operational needs of students, faculty, and staff within the framework of the negotiated agreements between the collective bargaining units and the district. During the fall, there was much discussion amongst the committee members and in public comments about the dysfunction of the calendar without winter, as we were experiencing initially. Then, as the months passed, we began to hear about all the many problems resulting from a calendar with an extended spring. As a committee, we listened very carefully to the students, to the faculty and staff who came to our meetings. This semester, we decided to begin to gather data. We researched other colleges and assembled the many arguments and points that have been brought to our attention. You have a document, or you should have, it was on the table, called the Pedagogical Rationale for a Calendar with Winter. That is just a partial assemblage of these points that have been brought to our attention. Not once did we hear any rationale for the calendar without winter, except that it was the board's calendar, and they wanted it in place. When President Rocha declared that the winterless calendar was better for students, we looked for a convincing rationale from him. We have yet to see that. In March, we delivered a statement to the Board of Trustees detailing some of these matters, and we informed them that it was our intention as a committee to present a calendar for 13-14 with winter. Since that meeting, we have compiled this rationale you have before you, and I will continue to reach out to the board. As a committee, we were also challenged by cancellations. Dr. Bell canceled 2 of our meetings and was not able to attend the last one. In retrospect, the lost time and confusion threatened to undermine this process. We should in fact be working on calendars for 14-15 and 15-16 by now. We're woefully behind due to the board's action. But despite all of these delays, we prevailed. The committee finalized and approved the 13-14 calendar on April 11th during a special meeting that we held because we were so behind. Our last scheduled meeting is not until next week. The 13-14 calendar was approved by a vote of 12 yeas, 1 nay, and 2 abstentions. So I'm here today to ask this body to vote to place this calendar on the agenda for approval as an urgent matter in the interest of time, which is my time.
So moved. Second. Second. Okay, that was Matt first. Okay, before we can discuss this, we need to, let's take roll to see how many people, I did the math, I want to make sure my math is right. So Judy, please follow. I don't count.
Canela?
Yeah.
Dan Haley?
Yes.
Mark Bell? Early Deadwood? Danny Hammond?
Here.
Tomas Rioja?
Present.
Patricia Dillon Martin? Deborah Bird?
Yeah.
Robert Oventine?
Here is Marquita.
Marjorie? Marjorie Smith? Pat Rose? Here. Martha Bonilla?
Here is Robert Odenthal. And you did so well. Keep working on the
Blanca Rodriguez? Karen Gavitt? Kristen Hyatt? Here. Terry Stoddard? Andres Borja?
Present.
Lakshman Prasad? Melissa Michelson? Here. Dorothy Tyler? Here. Kathleen Ishikawa? Here. Pat Key? Here. Matthew Jimenez?
Here.
Katie Rodriguez? Valerie Foster? Paul Jarrell?
Here.
Tad Carpenter?
Yeah.
Mark Whitworth?
Yeah.
Eduardo Cairo?
Here.
Derek Mill?
Lauren is here.
Lauren Albertson is here.
I'm here for Derek Mill. Francis Neon?
Yes.
Lauren Aronson? I'm here twice.
You can't vote that.
Joe Briscoe?
Here.
Yolanda McCain? Here. Rod Foster?
Here.
Just need patron, I'm just going to do the math.
It's more than 20.
Okay, I got 26 people here. I did the 2/3. If any of my math people can correct me if I'm wrong. Needs 17 to get the item on the agenda. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So,
It's gotta be 17, it's gotta be 2/3 of the total.
2/3 of the total on the Senate?
2/3 of the people in attendance. If it's more, if there are more than 2/3 of the people in attendance.
You sure?
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
We talked.
I did this last time.
I don't have a deja vu here.
Yeah. I think they're about this result.
Okay, so we need 17 to agree to put on the agenda. So Judy, could you just call roll? The item, you're voting yes to put on the agenda or no not to. Okay, so just go ahead and call roll.
Canela?
Yes.
Dan Heaton?
Yes.
Mark Dodge?
Yes.
Early Douglas?
Yes.
Danny Hammond?
Yes.
Tomas Riojas,
Yes.
Deborah Bird,
Yes.
Marjorie Smith,
Yes.
Pat Rose,
Yes.
Martha Bonilla,
Yes.
Kristen Hyde,
Yes.
Andres Huerta,
Yes.
Melissa Michelson,
Yes.
Dorothy Potter,
Yes.
Kathleen Uikawa,
Yes.
Pat Teach,
Yes.
Matthew Hennis,
Here. Oh, yes.
Todd Terrell,
Yes.
Chad Carpenter,
We got 2/3 of it. Yeah. It's continued, yeah.
Mark Whitworth,
Yeah.
Eduardo Cairo,
Yes.
Francis Neon,
Yes.
Lauren Aronson,
Yes.
Joe Bushko,
Yes.
Yolanda McKay,
Yes.
Rod Foster.
Yes.
Okay. Show it as unanimous. Okay, so the item is now up for discussion. Any motions from the floor about this item?
I move that we vote on it.
Okay.
Call the question.
Okay. So the move is to discuss and approve this particular version of the calendar. There was a first from Martha and a second from, I'm sorry, who was the second? Eduardo. Okay, discussion. Yes.
I just want to point out that the calendar committee was not able to decide on the dates for the professional development days after the spring semester. And so that's why there are fees on the calendar.
Kat?
I mean, like with everything, I would think that with the shared governance, we should take this back to our division for them to decide too.
And then do what with it, because we won't have another meeting.
By doing so,
Yes, please, Martha.
by doing so, you've effectively canceled out their participation in shared governance. So this is one of those times when we as senators need to operate as a body, for our, the people who have elected to represent us, the other way around.
Any other? Yes, please, Andre.
In our division, we got an email asking the faculty how they feel about this calendar. And I don't know if they told us officially with the resulting numbers, but the members of the calendar committee asked us, all of us in our division, to give us feedback. Has anybody done this in the other divisions?
I did that in my division, and the majority of my responses were in support of winter.
Right.
But not, the details weren't all hammered out. They were in support of the winter configuration.
Jordan?
I did it in the library. I talked to every faculty member, full-time faculty member in my division about this.
And we did it in natural sciences also, and I would like to point out that the calendar committee had posted numerous times that there were going to be meetings and these were going to be discussed at the meetings, and that would have been an appropriate venue to voice concern as well during the committee meeting itself.
Matt.
And as a member of the calendar committee, I can say that nobody has come into the calendar committee meeting and said, I want one without winter. Nobody has.
I mean,
people responded to me personally, yes, but nobody has come into a committee meeting, so.
well, and it has been, it's not like this is the calendar issue is a surprise to me.
No, that
an
only
opportunity
happens
in there to make your voices known for sure.
Any further comments? Yes, please. Lauren.
I would just like to thank the members of the calendar committee for your level of professionalism, your dedication, your grace in all of this, for putting it on the pulse. I mean, you have not missed a beat, so thank you so much from all of us.
Seeing no further discussion, I guess we can go ahead and move to the vote. If there was a motion to call a vote. Is that the motion?
Is there a motion to come to a vote?
Do you want to make a motion?
I called the question a while ago.
Yeah. So I guess you can call roll. Go ahead.
Why do we?
Okay, so all in favor of this, of approving this calendar, signify by raising your hand. Does it count? Keep your hands high.
This is in favor of the calendar.
In favor of this calendar. 1, 2, 3. Ahead. Any opposed to this calendar? One. So 23 to 1. And I don't call abstention. One abstention? Okay. Okay, so 23-1-1. All right. Next, Melissa, you have the floor.
Well, I was going to propose two things. I wanted to divide this motion. I have to somehow go over there, turn on the computer, project. So I was going to propose we divide the motion to first look at the document and talk about the wording, so we're all comfortable with it, and then figure out what to do with it, where to go from there. I wanted to actually make changes right on the screen so everybody can see. Yes.
Before you start writing that, I think it would be really good if you could state specifically what you want to do with this. Because from the public comment, I can still see that there's lots of people that really don't know where this vote is coming from. Whether it's just the academic senate or whether we're representing the divisions. So if you could just a one statement saying, this is basically what you're trying to do.
Well, I think that's part of the greater question here that we need to probably discuss, because there still is question amongst ourselves here in the Senate. So I wanted to clarify or go over the language, the words on this paper, and see if we're okay, if these are factual. I mean, I've gotten several senators, some who are not here today, some who are here today, have given me their feedback. And I want to, finish up the read with it and get to the bottom of it, and then we can maybe open it up to the public comments. I think there are more public comments we had, and discuss the full application. So should we start? I thought we could just look at the top. I would read it out loud, see what people had to say, and then move on. I don't. Does that work for everybody? Fine. Okay. So. This is the Pasadena City College Academic Senate resolution. This is our resolution, vote of no confidence for President Mark Rocha. Whereas President Mark Rocha, the President Superintendent, has repeatedly violated the regulations and spirit of shared governance. See, for example, Ed Code Section 7092B7 that quote, ensure faculty, staff, and students the right to participate effectively in district and college governance, emphasis added, said regulations contained in Title V, Section 53, 200, and so on. Any changes that need to be made there? We'll go down. Whereas President Mark Rocha violated AB 1725's provision for shared governance, which reads that a community college district's governing board must consult collegially to develop policies on academic and professional matters by relying primarily on the advice and judgment of the Academic Senate or the governing board or its designees, and the Academic Senate shall reach mutual agreement by written resolution, regulation, or policy of the governing board effectuating such recommendations. Yeah.
I don't know where this fits in, but I think that the Board of Trustees has made a pretty good suggestion that they be included in this. Obviously, they are supporting Dr. Rocha, and they're saying he's doing what we've asked. And so telling the Board of Trustees that we're not happy with the decisions that he's making, I'm not sure that
I would challenge that, because this is the paperwork that Dr. Rocha brought to us a few weeks ago.
Right.
And handed it all out to us. And here, August 15, 2012, 2 members of the Board of Trustees from Mark Rocha, Superintendent President, regarding recommendation for implementation of tentative student calendar. And so it came from him. He's the one that's made these suggestions in the first place to the board. I don't think the board took it upon themselves to say, I think we should get rid of intercession. I think we should try to get rid of the 16-week semester. I mean, from the very beginning, I've been on faculty senate ever since President Rocha came here, and one of the first things he tried to do was take away our faculty rights at hiring new faculty, and he wanted to make the final decisions. So it's sort of been these things that I'm watching it. I know that the board has written that letter, and to me it's just tactical, because it doesn't seem to be the reality of what I've experienced in the past 3 years.
There's also the last whereas that says that whereas the Pasadena City College Board of Trustees, in keeping with the Accrediting Commission for Community and Junior Colleges accreditation standards, delegates full responsibility and authority to the Chief Administrator to implement and administer board-approved policies without board interference, and holds him or her accountable for the operations of the district.
Okay, so just to clarify, so I've got, after Matt to respond, then I've got Martha, and then Paul, and then Francis.
Why not you continue?
I just wasn't sure if you had a response, so Martha.
I was just gonna say what Melissa just said, but I'm not actually saying that we shouldn't, but maybe not in this letter. Maybe that's another vote of no confidence.
Yeah.
They did take it separately, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah. So we might think about that in another.
So Paul and then Francis.
Yeah, and I think also, kind of reiterate what Yolanda said, I think that the lack of confidence or the meat behind this is that if we approve this, we're saying we don't feel that he would make the appropriate recommendations to the board. And I think that that's appropriate in that context to have it just be solely the president as opposed to the president of the board. Not saying then that the board, you may not have faith in me to govern as well, but that's kind of a different issue.
Okay, thank you.
Francis.
I think when the board says the board and not the superintendent's president made decisions that are on the thing called the question. Here they are not indicated who made the recommendations. I don't think seven members of the board are not empirically on hand every day. They're not here for everyday administration. They depend on the superintendent president to have a clear understanding of the different constituencies of the community and make recommendations to them as ordinary individuals elected as politicians, having no hand in the day-to-day micromanagement of the college. They depend on the president to have a good understanding of the different constituencies and the feeling and the attitude, the psychology. And on the day he made the presentation, he was pledged on the issue, who makes the recommendation? Do you make the recommendation in good faith with a sense of the fact that you have trust of your colleagues, you are addressing them as colleagues? Did you fully consult with them and then have the understanding that they are on board with you and that they will support others? Or you just were working against them? And the question of them hiring a, say, legal counsel, sometimes the legal counsel is to take care of him, not the whole college. There's kind of that atmosphere of the legal counsel, as long as it gets me out of trouble, I don't care who gets hurt.
I actually have a comment.
Oh, thank you. Very quickly, in the bullet points, and Melissa, I don't know the answer to this, but in the third one, sorry, I'm reading it.
Wait, which bullet point?
The third one, with regard to NCN in class size.
Okay.
I know, but can I just ask a really quick question, because I'll forget, I had way too much coffee, so let me just go. And with regard to these bullet points, all of them, this is like Francis was saying, this is day to day. Did this information make it to the board ultimately? Like, did the board ultimately make the decision for the class size NCN? I mean, okay, so that is not the president that made the decision. That's ultimately the board is accepting responsibility for that.
He recommends, the way it works is that the president recommends and the board actually takes on the elections.
Right. I just didn't know because right now the NCNs, I know in the final comments to the FA, they want the NCNs to go up. But before this final offer, did they even know what was going on? Does that make sense? Am I? Okay, never mind.
We should hold what they did, but we
Right, but that's my question, and I wonder.
We're also.
I really want to get through the box.
Okay.
Can I, as we go through these extra things, can I speak to that? Because I think Lauren is going in the direction that we want to have clarity on, which is that we want to make sure that what we're doing in this body as we edit is really solidly from the perspective of the 10+1 and not from a union perspective. So we really want to, as we're editing this document, keep that clarity in mind, because what we're asking is stuff that's really about the pedagogy in place, not about necessarily the like wages and working conditions impacts or that negotiated item. And I'm going to make some suggestions in a minute because of that framework. But just as we're all looking at that idea, like I would make that
We don't want to
clear.
complain when saying that the board is complaining.
Right.
So, okay, anybody else?
Please, what's it?
Oh, okay, so then, whereas he violated AB 1725's provision by, and then there are 3 examples, on August 29, 2012, recommending a unilateral cancellation of the winter 2013 intersession while willfully misrepresenting excerpted minutes, and I'm sorry it's red, I can take everything, it'll be underlined, I don't know why it's underlined either, so.
Keep going.
Not
Keep
underlined,
going.
it'll be red. Sorry, a unilateral cancellation of winter 2013 intersession while willfully misrepresenting excerpted minutes from the calendar committee's discussion as the calendar committee's assent to and support for a trimester calendar, which in fact did not ever happen, doing so in willful disregard of an already established 2012-2013 academic calendar, which had been A, signed off on by all members of the college's shared governance calendar committee on April 12, 2012, B, recommended for adoption by the college council on April 25th, 2012, C, unanimously approved by the governing board of trustees on May 2nd, 2012. So, any changes we can make to this? Please be specific, because I'd like to highlight and change.
No. So I know that this will sound more controversial than I intended to be, but with that framework around clear designation between the academic senate and union, I would like to remove this section. I think that the following 2 bullet points really clearly fall within the purview of 10+1, and given the history of the academic senate and the calendar, I think that if we're talking about kind of clarity of reasoning, I think that the following 2 make a lot more sense, and this one is a more muddled argument publicly. So I might recommend that that's one that we remove.
I understand that, but I find that really hard to believe in light of the fact that this body just approved the calendar for next year. And I mean, we have a role in that process. I understand what you're saying with regard to being unclear about the violation of the contract shifting with a working condition, but it really is a separate issue. There was a calendar that was approved by this body.
So then I've got Martha, Matt, and then Danny.
Well, the point being here is the spirit and regulations of shared governance, as well as specifically to consult collegially. So we are making a considered recommendation when we put forward the calendar. And just so we're all clear, in the past, in fact, it has been the past practices of this campus and the Senate up until last year to put forward the standing calendar on which the board moved on or voted in. In other words, the board in the past had relied primarily on our recommendations. So quite frankly, this, if anything, I don't want to remove it. If anything, would make it stronger to, contradict or rely primarily on procedures by which we have practiced in the past. And without which, by the way, if we don't have a rely primarily on, there needs to be a standing memorandum. And if there is no memorandum of understanding between the Senate and the board can't suddenly decide to change the way in which the calendar is enacted.
That's fine. Okay, so I got Matt and then Danny.
Since this body did approve the calendar that had winter and that that approval was disregarded. I think that this body is among those who were directly injured in the shared governance process, and so I think it's appropriate to leave this in there with a change that I would suggest. And I don't know if I should offer that now or until after this particular discussion.
I think if Nancy is open to it.
Okay, I think after the word trimester calendar, the which in fact did not ever happen, I think that we could lose that part, because now we're complaining that it didn't actually happen.
Not that the trimester calendar, that the
Oh.
calendar committee's assent to and support for it did not ever happen.
Okay, but perhaps there's a grammatical change to make that more clear.
It's a misplaced modifier there.
Maybe which assent did not ever happen or something like that?
The assent to which and support for never. Assent to which and support for trimester.
Well, you can,
So, Danny, you're up next, and then Yolanda.
Two questions and then just a general comment. One, I believe after it goes from the calendar committee, doesn't the academic senate approve it?
Yes.
So that's not listed in there.
It goes calendar committee, academic senate, college.
Then college council, right, okay. And then it actually then was recommended by the current administration, which I think should be listed in there because it's that administration that actually then reversed itself. And then was approved by the governing board of trustees. But you have to understand that the administration is the one that actually recommended it. So two things on that, and then I want to make one last general comment. Let's see. Calendar committee should be A. B should be was approved by the academic senate, or something to that effect.
All right, so B will be.
We're gonna need to find a date on that too, Danny. We're gonna keep
Okay.
find that date. So put in a
So are we putting it
placeholder.
in?
Well, I mean, I don't care, I'm just recommending
Need the
it.
date.
You want to put it in there?
Maybe we don't need to add that in right now. Maybe we'll just go with.
Yeah, okay, just don't put it in, that's fine. All right. My bigger concern is the overall idea that this is somehow contractual immunity. I don't see the FA anywhere mentioned in that paragraph. All I see are shared governance, the bodies, the calendar committee, the college council, and then the board of trustees. So I don't even I guess I'm just baffled by how this is somehow a contractual issue that is somehow union related and not academic senate, because those are all shared governance bodies. There's nothing about the contract or negotiations in that paragraph. So could you explain why you think it's contractual or union?
My concern is that the calendar has been a negotiated item, and that under the previous academic senate, it was given to the union primarily to consult upon. And so my moment is in tightening this argument, right? Like, if you want to keep yourself open for debate around it, you're welcome to. But I think that we have a much stronger argument going with the following 2 points. But I understand, like, let me be clear, I understand the concern, but I think this is one of those, we've discussed this in the past before, the clear line of who is supposed to go in what order around the calendar has been clearly muddled, and I think we would be better off going with the second one. But again, if I'm just giving my.
Yeah, no, I appreciate
right,
that.
like, that's the.
So can I just make two quick responses to that?
If it's okay, I know Yolanda, I've got you up next, so if you let Danny to respond.
Okay, so number one, I brought that up at the last public comment, this discussion that the calendar was turned over to the FA. As co-lead negotiator over the past 2 years, during the time that Ed supposedly did this, I have no record of it, I have no knowledge of it, there's nothing in writing. I even asked the public comment if anybody has any record of that, or any evidence of that, or anything in writing to that effect, to provide it. It hasn't been provided so far. So, number one, I think there's a misunderstanding as to this being turned over. Number two, what has been the past practice, ever since I've been here for the last 17 years, is the unions involvement in the calendar has always been a sign-off on whatever went through this shared governance process, and we have never, ever opposed whatever went through that shared governance process. So,
Yolanda.
I was just thinking that maybe we could take out unilateral and replace it with on August 29, 2012, recommending a cancellation of the winter 2013 intercession without consulting academic senate and willfully misrepresenting. That way, because I think the unilateral might be something that the board just negatively responds to because of this letter that they sent us.
Well,
And I think if he did do it on his own, but I think if we say that he did it without consulting us, that's what our view is.
I mean, this is our resolution. I mean, it's a statement from the board, from us to the board. It's not something that we want to necessarily agree with. I mean, if it happened, it happened. If it didn't happen, then we should put that there.
Well, I guess I'm not sure of how it happened, but if it was unilaterally himself.
Yeah, I think that's a good point,
He
actually.
didn't.
He didn't say, let's
He
just.
didn't consult us, we know that.
Yeah.
So where would you like to put the, can you repeat that?
On August 29, 2012, recommending a cancellation of the winter 2013 intercession without consulting academic senate and willfully misrepresented exerted minutes from the calendar committee discussion.
Okay, so 1 second, I'd like to interject with a time check. So we've now spent over 20 minutes editing this. This is only our third agenda item, and we still have the rest of the agenda items to move through. I'd like to make a motion to extend the conversation on this another 20 minutes.
Second.
Who's the second?
Okay, so what I
We didn't hear who the second was.
Eduardo.
Eduardo. Okay, we have to vote, that motion's not debatable. So the motion was to extend by 20 more minutes. All in favor of extending 20 more minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, so
Well,
what
one
I
opposed.
have here is
One
on
opposed.
August.
Okay, so we have 20 more minutes.
And next up is Andres, and then Martha, and then Dan.
And willfully.
Are we done with that change?
And
That
willfully.
sentence?
Okay, yes, we are done.
Andres.
And I put in parentheses, which in fact did not ever
Not
happen.
on, and.
Just a question of clarification. Did this misrepresentation happen on August or around August 29th? Or?
Yes.
yeah, he provided minutes
All of
to
that
the board,
on.
in the board packet.
Okay, are we done with this?
I have a
No.
Oh, wait.
grammatical. I have a
So wait, it's Martha.
Martha and then Dan.
And then Dan.
Okay.
So
I have a
Martha?
grammatical issue too, so maybe, well, I was gonna say recommending a unilateral, you can scrape back on unilateral cancellation of winter 2013 intercession while willfully misrepresenting the excerpted minutes from the calendar committee discussion as the calendar committee's assent to and support for a trimester calendar, comma. Doing so willfully, in doing so, scrape out that whole, which is, and in doing so, willfully disregarded, willfully disregard any already established, willfully disregarding any already established 2012, 2013 calendar. Got it?
Okay, and in doing so willfully disregarding
An already established,
an already established.
and if you want to say Senate approved,
Senate
that would,
approved, that would work.
academic calendar.
Cancellation of winter 2013 intercession without, and I'm taking without consulting academic senate, that's coming out.
Yeah.
On August 29, 2012, recommending a unilateral cancellation of the winter 2013 session and willfully misrepresenting excerpted minutes from the calendar committee's discussion as the calendar committee's assent to and support for the trimester calendar, comma, and in doing so, willfully disregarded an already established Senate-approved 2012-2013 academic calendar, comma, which had been signed off on. Good?
Disregarded instead of regarding.
It's
Marjorie.
wordy, but it says.
Willfully disregarded.
Disregarded.
Regarded.
Disregarded. Doing so willfully disregarded and already established. Okay? Next bullet point, are we done?
So Marjorie, had a minute.
And one is, after trimester calendar, you don't need a comma in front of that and, because you're not connecting
Okay,
two
it's
infinite
gone.
clauses. And then the other thing is that if we want to keep, I don't know that unilateral cancellation represents what we want to say. I think possibly we should say unilaterally recommending.
Yeah,
Have the adjective.
Yeah.
Unilaterally recommending a cancellation.
And then that represents his act.
All right, unilaterally recommending a cancellation of the winter.
You can leave out the A, you don't need the A in front of cancellation.
All right.
Unilaterally
Shall
recommended
we go to the
cancellation.
next bullet? Yeah. All right.
Okay, let's go.
By mandating a campus-wide instructional division realignment over the objections of the reorganization realignment committees, which have spent months deliberating and whose work President Rocha has previously authorized to assess, restructure, and realign instructional divisions. All right.
Hey,
Next.
Matt, do we have a representative of the reorganization realignment committees here?
Yeah. Dan, me, Deb.
Okay, and you have documentation of your objections?
Oh, yeah, that's the town hall meeting, it was pretty much. All the departments said, no, we want to keep our academic themes.
Okay, so our base, I'm just making sure the bases are completely covered.
Yeah.
So they are, okay. Thank you.
Okay, next bullet, imposing class size increases, NCNs, in fall 2010 and spring 2013, disregarding the past practices, fall 2012 respectively, and the year-long process.
Meaning particular?
Run over there.
And the year long.
Imposing class size increases in fall 2010 and spring 2013, disregarding the past practices. I'm wondering if I should take this out. I'm not sure.
Yes. We don't know where it came from either.
And the year-long process of the curriculum and instruction committee to develop pedagogically appropriate class size limits for the school, as well as the recommendations of from the VP of Education Services.
Same question as last one, your documentation has it. That's really particular to do with policy, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I was there.
Thank you.
I just have a suggestion from Penella's first statement, that maybe we could put that first bullet point at the bottom.
No.
No, I mean, I don't agree. Any changes to this last bullet? That's true and accurate then?
Yes.
All
The
right.
only thing I might add is we seem to be getting pretty clear dates on everything else, but not on bullet point number 2. So I would say if we have time to go back and get those specific dates down, I think that if we're going to get clarity of argument everywhere else.
I don't really think really, it's on videotape.
Wait.
And those videotapes should, they should be on the transparency.
So then we can take them off everywhere.
Hmm?
So then we can take dates off on the other two things.
No,
I
yeah.
don't think
Do you
it's
see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but point 2, it was really muddled, and a lot of it happened behind the scenes. It was slipped in after that August meeting, August Board of
Right,
Trustees
but I think
meeting.
if you're trying to get, that's exactly what I'm saying. That why wouldn't we just add in those dates that are relevant for clarity of our process?
Yeah.
Because we're not sure exactly when it happened.
But we do know it did happen.
It did happen,
Okay,
yes.
so this document is still accurate with or without dates?
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Matter.
On that point, I think the first bullet point, there were events that occurred that we can pinpoint, for which we can pinpoint the dates.
Yes.
The other couple of bullet points, maybe not so much because they were kind of in process, things that ended up happening. When I first read the document that was sent out to us, some of my feedback to Melissa was, in the bullet, what we see as the first bullet point here, when did this happen, when did this happen, when did this happen? It didn't strike me in the rest of it, just because it seemed to me more like a evolutionary process.
Okay, so the last whereas Whereas the Pasadena City College Board of Trustees, in keeping with the credit, I think we read this before, in keeping with the Accrediting Commission for Community and Junior Colleges accreditation standards, delegates full responsibility and authority to the chief administrator to implement and administer board-approved policies without board interference and holds him or her accountable for the operations of the district according to the standard. And therefore be it resolved that the Academic Senate of Pasadena City College has no confidence in President Mark Rocha to maintain a healthy shared governance system, implement major changes responsibly, or provide effective leadership to the campus community. And then we have the votes, how we could vote, ayes, nays, noes, abstentions, and absent, and then President Hannaby's signature. That I certify that the foregoing is a true and correct copy of the resolution passed on today's date.
Does that have to be by roll call or can that be by ballot?
Can I have a research this? What was it you found about?
We're supposed to be able to track everything by votes. Like, we should be able to go by roll call. I don't know that we necessarily need to, I mean, we need to do that, but is that true, Mark?
I'm just curious, I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but I mean, it makes people comfortable.
The problem is it cannot be a secret vote. Okay, everything has to be published because it's a public meeting. I don't see any reason to have a roll call. I think that if we went ayes and nays and recorded it like we do a normal, regular vote, there's no reason to say, how do you vote?
That's what I
yes! I don't think we necessarily need to do that. Now, you can call division if the vote sounds like it's
Okay, so I'd like
close.
to make this change right here. What should I do? I just remove by roll call? I'll just say Academic Senate votes, colon. Does that work?
Of course, that will be in the minutes too. Like Cody's recording right now.
Okay.
Yes, Mark.
My question is it seems like this last vote, therefore be it resolved, I think there needs to be something in there, and I just realized this, else I would have closed before, about the communication between us that goes through him to the board of trustees. Like there's a major communication where he basically communicates what he wants, but he doesn't really care. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's just, there's
Could
no.
you please specify the wording?
Yeah, maybe we can email that. My English people help me out.
Implement major changes responsibly, provide effective leadership to the campus community, and accurately represent to the board.
And accurately
Yeah, that's
Okay,
good.
And then someone else in English is going to have to finish that sentence.
Get rid of the or.
Get rid of the or.
Get rid of the or.
Yeah.
And
Or
then
you can
after
put it-
community, you're gonna put comma and an or. No, you don't need the and. You don't need the and. Okay, so we want some parallel structure, all maintain, implement, provide. And report. Communicate.
One person.
And communicate accurately.
Accurately communicate
Well,
with the board.
all right.
Or communicate accurately.
Communicate accurately.
Provide
Provide
instructions.
Yeah.
Well, what about? But
To
shouldn't
the
that,
board what?
the will of the Senate or something like that?
To the board, the
The
will.
will of the Academic Senate.
Or the campus community.
Different constituencies in the campus community.
And the campus community.
Yes.
Because it could be any of the committees.
Or
that
to
we-
actively
you know.
communicate with the board, verbally input.
Okay, therefore, okay, are we good with this?
Input
Inside.
of the different constituencies of the campus community.
And the input of the,
Different constituencies of the campus community.
various.
Never mind.
No, it's getting worse.
Okay, right, if you line up, right before the word communicate, instead of an and or, I'm in SLO mode, and if we put an or there, we're essentially saying he can't do any of these things. Not just, here's a package that he can't fulfill completely. If we put an or, we're saying he cannot, we don't believe he's gonna implement major changes for, we don't believe he's gonna represent us
Yeah, we
accurately.
can't
We don't
do
believe he can
and or.
fulfill shared governance.
You just
Okay?
and, you're right, put and, that's very good.
Or.
And
and/or with
No,
the
go up one.
Okay.
And Melissa, if you wanna make it a little softer, I don't know if you do. But if you wanna, instead of the will of the Senate, maybe the recommendations of the Senate.
How does everybody feel?
That's recommendations.
That's in fact what we do.
That's our.
Will is what happens.
Okay, all right, so we have academic senate votes and nays. So we have effectively, we have gone through this document. Shall we feel that this
Call the
document,
question, or
that's what we wanted to do? Shall we, yeah, but we didn't
Mark?
have there's public comments, right?
I already got them all. I got them all. Mark?
So I still feel like my question has not been answered as to, is this coming just from the members of the academic senate, or are you asking us to represent anybody other than that?
Well, we need to vote on this document.
Okay, so there's confusion, because that's not how I see this. The way you see it, Francis, is not how I see it.
No. Well, the way we should see it, should we see it as people who brought ourselves here, or as representatives of the faculty that sent us here? Who are the owners of this academic senate institution?
That is my question.
We still agree on that.
I'd like to first vote on this as, that we agree that these are the words that we are comfortable
Oh, so you're moving to say that the text.
That the text is
I
ready to
second
go.
that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I second the motion that the text is ready to go. I also would like to make a comment in return.
Okay, so the question on the floor is that do we approve the language of this motion as it's currently constituted? Any discussion of that? Seeing none, the question is called. All in favor of approving the language of this resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so now this is the motion, it can't be amended any longer unless there's a friendly amendment further. So now the question is, what do we want to do with this motion? So is there any motion along those lines? Matt, please.
No. Yeah, not yet. It's not yet. It's a formatting issue. The vertical lines on the sign and,
As I said, the
so
vertical
you'll
lines.
get cleaned up and perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Mark, please.
Well, I just wanted to respond before and I would be glad to vote right now, but just to respond to Mark, that, I was giving this some thought, and it seems to me that you can't help but wear two hats when you're here. You need to represent your division, you absolutely need to, but you also need to do what's right for this body. In other words, we're charged with I'm gonna say what I said to you. Part of what I did was, when I was not the senator, but the alternate quietly sitting in the peanut gallery, I basically wrote to my senators and I said, look, I had to vote for a no confidence because I didn't see anybody in the Senate taking action that was needed to be taken. And I can see very clearly the writing on the wall and what this is going to mean for our accreditation if we don't stop the bleed now. I mean, I think your point is well taken. In other words, that we need to really respect the fact that we do the least amount of damage. But the fact of the matter is that there's been a great deal of damage. I mean, a great deal of damage done to this campus. So much so I'm worried about our accreditation. So this is my way of saying when I was not a member of this body, this needs to stop. This dive off the cliff needs to stop. So I know for a fact that I, as a faculty member, wanted my senators to have my back and to have my voice and to protect this campus from further damage. So I am here wearing two hats. Basically I'm having to wear the hat of a senator of this body. But at the same time, I'm having to represent the people in my division who feel similarly in large proportion. So
May I say it's not two hats, integrated hats?
I guess I would say that yes, but I also think that at a certain point, as faculty senators, our division doesn't come and sit here every 2 weeks and read the paperwork over the weekends. And so I know that people in my division depend on me in some instances to make those decisions as the senator, because they rely on me to stay informed when they don't have to stay informed. So I think it kind of works both ways.
Right.
I'm just going to go out on a limb and guess that this body's bylaws do not require every senator to take every issue back to his or her division to be voted on before we have the authority to speak on behalf of our divisions. But if the parliamentarian, if there were a concrete answer to the question, it would come from the bylaws.
Martin?
I'm looking at the minutes on page 10, and it says parliamentarian clarification. Voting on this matter would be on behalf of just the Senate itself. And where it says discussion and comments, a Senate vote by the representative should not require the need for division input, and the body should decide to take a vote. I said, taking a vote would be a stand that the Senate wants to take. So we had this discussion last time. It's in the minutes. So I thought we decided this and clarified it last time. It's here on the minutes, page 10.
Eduardo?
Call the question.
Eduardo, you need a second?
Second.
Who seconded?
Pat.
Pat, okay. Question is called. Basically, I have to take a, before I can call you, I need to see if the body wants to agree with the call the question. All in favor of calling the question signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The question is called, okay? So that means the discussion is over. So at this point, I'm going to basically say that the motion, as Melissa just showed it on the screen, is the motion that we are voting on. You want to pull it up there so everybody can take a better look at it? Make sure everybody's clear about what they're voting.
And we're voting on the document, we're voting on especially the therefore result.
All we're really voting on is therefore, really. Yeah, that's.
I just want to point out something. It looks like we don't recognize our role here. In representation, I think we have three things. One is trusteeship. They trust us to be here. The other one is instructed when it's necessary. And we still wear the integrated act of being part of the group and also being representatives of the group. And then offering what they want, standing in for and on behalf of that group.
Okay, so the question is called, because the asked me to really clearly identify how many yeses and nos, so I'm going to do this at first just by hands, and if it seems like it's sort of split, I might call roll, but it doesn't look like I'm going to need to. So if you just raise your hands really high, I'm going to actually ask Nell and Dan to check my numbers to make sure I get them all correctly. And it asks for yeas, nos, abstentions, and absence, so I'll do all that math too. So all in favor of approving the motion that's on the screen, signify by raising your hand. Any no's? Any abstentions? One abstention. Okay, and math, there are 9 absent. Okay, so I have 23 yes, 0 no, 1 abstention, and 9 absent. Yes?
I'd like to challenge the abstentions or just to ask for, I would just like for the absences to reflect the true, only the members that are, because I think we've been counting, somebody, I thought you called Lochnaw again, and Melissa's taking Lochnaw's place, so he's not an absence. He's here. No, but right.
There's 33 people on the body, so we're not in place.
And that's the same with Robert.
I think
That's him.
I think we have to be honest about the numbers, and part of that honesty is in the how many people are really absent. If we have Lochnaw's not absent, if Melissa's taking his place. Yes.
And the same for Robert, because Mark is here. For Robert every time.
Derek, since I'm here.
Right.
I just got 3.
There are 3 fewer.
So there's 33 total senators, and so that would mean that there are 24 voters, that were 9 that didn't vote. That's that basically.
That was one
There's 33.
One
Could be-
abstention. One
And
abstention.
one abstention. Yeah, I can do this.
So is it 8 that didn't vote, or, and one abstention?
What are the numbers?
23 yes, 0 no, 1 abstention, none.
So the 33, was that,
Include
So
alternate?
Joe had,
No, doesn't include argument.
Joe had her hand up first.
I'm just asking for clarification. Deborah Bird started here, she's not here. And I'd like to know what the switch is or what's happening.
That's our Senate alternate.
Okay, so
So we abandoned the meeting.
so I just think that we need to acknowledge that there's been a change.
For the record?
It looks like she's here, but she's not here for the vote.
But the vote.
But we're not doing a roll call.
They're not, it's
And
not
do a
roll
roll
call.
So it's just, the division needs to be.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we have to highlight, it's just that she's signed in and then she's absent and Jason steps in, and it's just kind of confusing.
Well, Jason should sign the roster.
Yeah.
I have one more motion having to do with this. So,
Go ahead and make your motion.
I move to have President Hamby take this voted on document to the Board of Trustees on Wednesday and read the document in full, along with the total votes as Senate President during his Senate report.
On Wednesday? There's no meeting this Wednesday.
Or next Board of Trustees.
It'll be May 1st.
Meeting, okay.
Because I can't make tomorrow nights. Tomorrow night's their joint meeting. I don't even have a
There's a
report
meeting
tomorrow.
on the 16th and, yeah, tomorrow.
It's not that, you don't report.
I don't have a report tomorrow night.
Oh, okay.
That's the next agendized meeting that we're on.
May 1st. You don't even have to make a motion. That will be done. I will do it in my report. I will read this word for word.
Excuse me, can I?
Let the record show. I
There's
will
a
read this.
dollar
So that being said, we're also at the 55-minute mark on this. So if that's our last motion, perhaps we can move forward with our agenda.
Okay, we have a pleasant thing to do at number 2 here. We have a list of the change of rank approval from Howland, you could not be here, so we need to work it right now. So I would ask if there would be a motion to approve the change of rank. Thank you, Mark. Second? Mark and Mark. Any discussion of the rank approval?
No, we didn't.
Is that one?
So it looks like this, the package.
Well, I'm done here. Parliamentarian, if you want to speak to your citizens on here.
Probably not, if you're on the list, you can't vote for yourself. Go ahead.
He said you can't vote for yourself, so if you're on the list, you can't vote, is what he's saying. Okay, any discussion of this item? If I can call to order, please, so we can get through this, because we have a few more really general items. Okay, so he does recommend if your name's on the list, that you abstain. Okay, so all in favor of approving this, actually I don't have a motion. Anybody approving the rank? Oh, there was a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, it was a motion, forgive me. All in favor of approving the change of rank, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, that is done. Congratulations. Okay, Kara is not here, so I will represent that the last meeting we introduced to you that we were going to approve the CNI approved NCNs. So that has been all provided to you. Does anybody have a motion to approve that? Okay, Paul, second. Martha, any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the CNI NCN, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Oh, sorry.
That was a discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. It just shows that we approve it. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's approved. Penelope, if you can take up the calendar charge.
All right, so the next thing we've got up is our Academic Senate Calendar Committee. So again, this is not a shared governance committee. This is the committee that falls directly underneath the Academic Senate. The charge is, the Senate committee will make recommendations to the academic senate about the academic calendar. These recommendations will be based on evidence and discussion regarding regarding student success and learning, professional development, and organizational development. This is our second read, so if we can approve to move this as a charge for this committee, we can get this committee started as soon as possible.
We need motion along with that.
So discussion first.
Sure, question. I don't know what organizational development means in this context.
So we'll cover it again. So we talked about this quickly last time, but perhaps you weren't here. That is not totally passive aggressive. I apologize. But organizational development is being able to have the time to do the things to make our departments, divisions, and even committee work successful. So the example being, we looked at adding those professional development days in at the beginning and the end of the last calendar. And so one of the things we're moving towards is learning how to do assessment, right? While that's pedagogical, that's also something that's kind of like an organizational practice. How are we doing in our skills? So we might want to be able to have days where we say, hey, this is like an organizational development day to focus on things like assessment, program review, committee work, etc.
Distinct from professional development. Okay.
Any other further clarifications? Yes, Pat.
You know, it seems to me that, maybe Dorothy can speak to this better than I can, but it seems to me when we have our former academic senate calendar committee, that committee did its work, but that also the recommendations, do they filter into the campus-wide calendar committee before?
Yes. I thought that was the flow, and I don't see any mention of the work that our academic senate committee is going to do going anywhere. I mean, coming to us, yes, but it should somehow impact the larger.
Pass the recommendations on to the college.
So you
You can go both ways. You can go to college council but also the campus-wide.
Right, so traditionally what would happen is, to answer that in twofold, one is, once we make a recommendation through this body, it goes to two places after that. One is it's directly done with CAPM, so we go directly to the president administration. And then the second is through college council. So we would report out to both of those directions through normal means. However, if you'd like to say that it also reports out to the shared governance calendar committee, that's an additional change that we can then make, and I'm happy to make that.
I think that's an important
amendment.
I think that's an important thing, because that's what in the past, that was the catching block in the past, so that there wasn't a coordinated effort. If you change that language there, then it becomes a more coordinated effort. And I think it would be a good idea.
So the two procedural questions then I have, if I'm willing to make the process recommendation, but I think it's important for us to clarify what order that would go in. Does that make sense? So might the sentence read that this committee will make recommendations to the academic senate about the academic calendar and then to the shared governance calendar committee?
Yes.
Does that make sense? So it will come to us first.
Yes.
We would approve it based on these specific things: success in learning, professional learning, organizational development, and then those people would go, and we could do it either as the executive committee or the specific committee could go and represent two calendar committees. So I saw Martha and then Melissa.
One other question is on and I apologize for not having been here. I'm going to have to escape soon because I've got
We
class.
all are.
I know. But evidence. What do you mean specifically by evidence? Do you mean IPRO evidence or?
I would say evidence in all forms. I think one, we would look at things like program review, assessment. I think we would look at other outstanding evidence in general, so research-based choices. So I think we would look from a variety of things, including IPRO.
In addition to any kind of commentary from students, faculty, etc.
Well, I would say from our portion would be based on things that come out of a pedagogical format. And I would say in terms of that student moment of discussion, that would come out of the shared governance committee. Does that make sense? Like this should be really about us as a faculty making a uniform and informed voice. And then we can report out to the shared governance body. So Melissa and then Kathleen.
The organizational development would be behind it, if that makes sense, but I'd like to see it in writing for people that are not here, and that in the future, future years to come, if this charge still exists, that they don't have the same question that at least I still do, that I do, just looking at those other words.
I'm not good at wordsmithing, but I really like to see that pedagogical word in there somehow. I mean, you've said it a few times, but it's not part of the charge.
How about evidence, pedagogy, and discussion? Does that sound good? I'm gonna look to my English trio.
How about pedagogical evidence?
There you
Pedagogical
go.
evidence would be best.
I only deal with the spoken word, so it's flexible.
Okay, so there's been a series of friendly amendments. I think Jeff Pinello has accepted his friendly amendment.
I'm happy to accept them, but I know that there are people who believe that we need to have clean copies for everything that we move forward to. Although if we do that, that means that the charge of this committee would be held off until 12 minutes.
Yes, Gordon.
So far, everything is good. So in regards to what Melissa says, the organization development, can we insert something now? Or is that what you were referring to?
Yeah.
Some sort of explanation to what that is?
Okay, so we got pedagogical evidence, we can do,
He's talking about how it goes out and where it goes.
So how about this? I add an IE committee work.
Yes.
Does that, program review, etc.
Assessment.
Is that you? We're doing.
It'd be an EG.
It's EG, right?
For example.
yeah.
Thank you. I will leave it to you again.
I actually don't mind the organizational aid because it actually has something to do with like study abroad, because one of the things that got horribly affected by this maneuvering of the calendar is some of our study abroad programs.
Right.
So-
Well, we might also, so traditionally when we talk about organizational development, this may also be a day where we do something like, for example, when we were first developing the EMP and we had kind of that EMP assessment, remember we had those big community events that people would go to? That might be something that as we head into long-term planning, we add those kinds of things in. That's an organizational development, right? Like how we develop our mission statement and our master plan, that's organizational development.
That could also fall in professional development, so.
Professional development is usually about, I'm sorry to speak over you, Martha, that wasn't my intention. But professional development is usually regarding the skills that you need to do your job better. So things like learning technology, learning new pedagogies, that's
New forms of assessment.
right, that's
new forms of-
professional development. This is about how we go forward as an organization. Does that make sense?
Why don't you read it as been amended?
Oh, Lord. Okay, so this Senate committee will make recommendations to the academic senate, about the academic calendar, and then report to the shared governance committee. These recommendations will be based on pedagogical evidence and discussion regarding student success and learning, professional development, and organizational development, e.g. committee work, program review, etc.
So that's the revision. Any motion to approve that revision? This is Matt first,
Second.
Early second. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of this revised charge for the calendar committee, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it's approved. Thank you, Mr. Pinello, for doing all the work. Okay, next is the executive committee recommendation number 1. You should have a list, the summer faculty hiring pool. Okay, I have, by the way, I tell people higher numbers, and what I realize is when I send out 2 different emails, and some people responded to both. So that's why people got counted double. So it was 32 people that I had. I am going to take nominations from the floor right now if anybody wants to add their name to the list. And what the Senate approved a few meetings ago was, what the Senate President would meet in the next month, and then Eduardo would do is during the summer would contact the people on this list to get on the summer hiring pool. So anybody who wants to add their name to the list at this point, just go ahead and raise your name, put your name in, and I will add your name to the list.
Just,
Nella?
I have a question.
Sure.
I don't get it.
Go for it.
Okay, because earlier Bob Bell mentioned that they're going to be hiring deans and that they were going to have for this realignment, that they would try to have that done in September or something. So that means that those hiring committees are going to happen over the next 4 months?
No.
Well, then how would they have people in line for September?
They said they would start the hiring process by September. My understanding is, and let me, like, this is what, is that they're gonna start flying the positions over the summer with the idea that the hiring committees would start back for those dean positions once the term started.
Is there going to be a consultation process with the Senate or faculty about the job description for the deans?
I believe, again, that the deans have been doing this through their retreat process. And so the deans should have that information up. And likewise, I would say, based on at least what you guys heard, what Dr. Bell said, so I'm not giving you anything new, is that hopefully by the fall, we'll be able to have that clarification. Again, with his goal being that organizational chart will be out sometime in the next month for us to be able to see what that looks like.
So this pool will not include those hirings?
As far as we know,
Any executive level was gonna be called an emergency meeting.
so, yeah. So what we had said through that, remember when we were hiring this pool, we said anything that would be a major, like, administrative level position above, we would call an emergency meeting over the summer.
Of the Senate?
Of the Senate,
Okay, and
to
then
approve.
names could be added at that point?
At that time, yes.
Yeah. But again, likewise, we've not heard any reason to believe that they're gonna be hiring for these positions.
I'm just afraid that what happened last break is going to happen.
No,
Because
totally.
we will be gone for 4 months.
Yeah.
And a lot of emergencies.
The only one that we've heard of as being an immediate something is the, because of retirements in social sciences, that dean is gonna be hired. That was the only one I think that happened, that came up during the capital. That one for sure is gonna be, that one's gonna be done. But beyond that, they said there was nothing else. Dan, do you wanna talk about that?
We asked about numbers, and I asked if it's going to be 5 to 10, and Bob Miller said there won't be 5 to 10.
So, it's Kathleen, Martha, then Melissa.
Well, my understanding, and I know none of it's been carefully planned, just like the folks around here, my understanding is that the Uber deans, there are going to be positions that are flown, but the next level down deans are going to be chosen by the administration. And it seems to me that that violates our hiring process. And if that's what I've heard, that the next level down are going to be chosen, not real hiring process.
Can't comment because I haven't heard that.
To be honest with you, that is not something that has at all been discussed through CAPM. So that could just be fear. Right, do you know what I mean? Like, which is totally fair, just a totally fair moment without lack of information that we're filling in.
I just wanted to make sure that faculty members whose names are on the hiring pool listing actually get chosen to represent their faculty, the faculty in the division when a hire is concerning that faculty or
Yeah,
director
it's in the
position.
policy, Martha.
I know, but apparently some confusion came up in nursing.
We'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that that is really abided by, and that when a division asks for recommendations, that you make every possible effort to recommend the faculty within that division or within
I don't
that
see any
area.
reason why people would do that.
You know?
Yeah.
But I just want to reiterate.
Any further discussion? Anybody want to put their names in the pool? This is really key. Okay. So raise your, I'll acknowledge that I got one. Okay, so Rod. And I'll make this all in alphabetical to make it easier once I get it all done. Lauren. Eduardo. Okay, so what's Jason? Is it Jason? What's your last name?
Norris.
Morris. Norris, I'm sorry.
As in June.
As in Chucky.
Naturally.
Okay, anybody else who wants to put their name into the pool? Marjorie?
Okay. Go for it.
So, my name is number 20 on the list. I'm in ESL. there's someone else under me that's also on the list, she's also in ESL. How did they get on the list like this and also?
It's alphabetical.
Oh, sorry.
Alphabetical by last year.
And so then when, say, an ESL hiring happens, you look for ESL or you just run that?
I'm paraphrasing the policy that Jessica wrote, but it basically says that first priority will go to people from the area that are going to be impacted by the hire. That just makes sense.
And then, so if two of us are from ESL, how do we, will we roll the
If basically the executive committee would then follow the directions and say, since the two people from ESL applied, then we get first approval.
But this is all going to be done by tomorrow anyway.
This will be done by, well, for another. Sorry?
Right, so it'll be split, so it'll be split between, depending on what it is.
Very painstaking.
But yeah.
Time consuming.
Which of us will be?
It will be up to the executive committee to decide.
Dustin?
Yes.
I thought that, the hire, are you concerned about a faculty member? Is that what you're saying with
No, I'm
those
just
two people on
curious if I
the
should really,
ESL?
no, I'm just curious, since this is my first time will be on the hiring committee, I want to make sure that I will be here, and my colleague is also on the list, so I don't know if I should contact her at all and say, I don't know, I just.
Well, what happens is, let's say, I'll give you an example, let's say 2 weeks from now, oh, sorry, 4 weeks from now in the summer, we get a request for some kind of hire.
Right.
The first thing that I would do is I would send an email and have Judy create a list of all of these names on it, so it would be this particular list. And then I would send an email to this list saying, here's the potential committee. Let's say 6 people will get back to us if they want to be on the committee. Then the executive committee, using the policy that we've approved, would then approve people based on that policy. So for example, if people from that area that are being affected have approved, they would get approved first, and then we just go from there as the policy goes down. And eventually, it'll just come down to the executive committee making a decision. If there was got to the last list and it wasn't full, then they would just fill it based on their judgment. Ours for another month, and then the new executive committee going forward from there.
Remember, the stuff that we're talking about is like the painter.
The painter.
You know what I mean? Like, what the committees that we're hiring are not like faculty committees. They're not upper level. This is really like, no. This is for the emergency, like, suddenly you have to hire a clerical position and it's all under classified, right? Like, this is not for those positions.
And again, the policy says if there's a high level executive, then we would reconvene the Senate.
So it's Dorothy then Lauren?
Dorothy.
So, when, this is called the summer committee, but is it also technically the extended spring committee?
Yes, thank you for the clarification. Lauren?
I think you answered this, just a point of clarification. So those of us that have currently been appointed to committees that will start in spring, but continue into whatever this extended thing, you don't need our names, right? That's something.
If you're on a hiring committee right now, you're on that committee, you're moving forward.
You don't care.
This is only if, again, God forbid, a facilities person has to quit. This is our
I just wanted to make
chance
sure
to
that
fill in that.
both of you are aware that there are many of us that are currently on committees that in the past, we sort of finished those committees by the end of spring. But that is no longer possible because where we are in the college.
Yeah, no, this is just for, because once you're on a committee, we can't, as you know, the HR policy is, once you're on it, you're kind of on it because of all the confidential issues. Right, so that that's not what we're doing. We're just doing for any new hires once summer gets started.
Any further discussion? Anybody else want to put their name in final call? Okay, so we have a list of 40. We are approving these people for potential summer hiring committees. A motion to approve the summer hiring pool. Matt, Pat, okay. All in favor of approving the summer hiring pool, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you to Jessica for getting that. Okay, I'm going to ask Judy in a bit to sort of explain a little bit about the second item here. Just a little bit to what you should know is we, through the diligence of Judy and the executive committee, we've actually saved money on the food for this time around. We're going to be using an external caterer. I think we should all be very thankful for that. Thank you to Judy for arranging that. And if you don't like it, you can blame me, not Judy. I think it's a pretty good list of food. And so this $4,000, by the way, is actually sort of estimating a little bit high, but it probably won't be that much that we'll have to pay for the summer incident breakfast. But it's about in line with what we've approved in the past to cover this event. There will be a charge of, I think, $20 per ticket. Is that $25? $20 per ticket if you'd like to attend. So what we're asking you, Judy, you want to talk any further about the Senate breakfast before we talk about the sign?
We received a draft flyer today, and hopefully it should go out within a couple of days. The cost will be $20. Tickets will be on sale student day. And,
Okay. And again, thank you to Judy for all her work on this.
wasn't the food?
Okay, what's the rough?
The food?
What's the
The
vendor is Burger Continental. And the food.
We're getting croissants and fruit, eggs and bacon.
There's Huevos and some really solid food on that. Yes. That we don't know. We just have two so far.
But to clarify, we're moving this breakfast from being just about retirees to also celebrating the folks who are getting tenure this year. So especially if you have folks who are getting tenured in your department or division, this is actually the first time ever, as far as I know, that we've actually celebrated folks who've gotten tenure. So that's kind of a big, wonderful welcome, and I would encourage you guys to come and participate, just so we get in the habit of saying thank you and congratulations to folks.
Within this, are we including those people that are retiring also? I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, we only have 2 folks who are retired, and I think we have 7 folks who are getting tenure.
And also the awards we give out this too, the Ralph Story Award and the Rizzo Award, they'll be given out this breakfast as well. I'm asking for you to approve $4,000 to cover the expenses of the breakfast. Do I have a motion along those lines? Okay. Mark? Joe? Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor of approving the $4,000, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, I told Michelle Iron-Gallman that I would take the lead on the next item. We separated it just so you can see it as a separate item. She called me about 2 or 3 weeks ago at home and asked that I approve $300 for her to make a video, $300 for her and her committee to make a video honoring all the previous Ralph Story Awards that are still living. They did hunt most of them down, and they will be all in the video. I think Judy's been involved in making the video. It hasn't been officially given. The $300 has not been officially given to her. So I'm asking for your indulgence that we can approve this $300 so she can make this video. Do I have a motion along those?
So moved.
Joe second, Danny second. I'm sorry, Joe first, Danny second. Any discussion? I think it's gonna be a great video. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay, let me just sort of move to number 4. I know that Kristen, you want to talk about this. You have to be really sort of patient with me. I know it's sort of late here. Each of these 6 individuals gave me a statement, and so I'm going to be reading you their statements before we actually take a vote. So the last item really for us to bring forward is a ballot of the people who will be on the hiring committee for the nursing program director. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Kristen, who just wanted to just let us know a little bit about what your division had to do this before we take a vote and before I read the statements. So please go ahead.
Okay, well, from what I understand from senior faculty is that historically, the faculty, nursing faculty or health science faculty have voted on who they want to represent them on the hiring committee for director, and then we forward it to the academic senate. We voted on this a few months ago, and we voted for Deborah Ford, Donna Nielsen, and also Carla Christensen, who's since withdrawn her name because she has a lot of responsibilities. So I would like to put my name as academic senator and representative of health science in there. And so these were the people we were originally recommended, and it was brought up to the academic senate originally without their names on it. So,
That was the request I got from the community.
yes.
So before we take a vote, let me just go ahead and read.
Pardon? It was Deborah Hellman Ford, Donna Nielsen, and then I'm throwing my name in there because Carla Christensen has removed her because she's got a lot of responsibilities.
Okay, before we take a vote, let me just read the statements from each individual. Be patient with me because I have to sort of go back and forth here on my email. It's a little slow. So I'm going to just read the statements from each one. I'm going to pass out the ballots first before. Don't vote until I read the statements. From each of the 6, to be fair to each of them. Hearing what Kristen has already informed you of, don't keep that in mind. Okay, let me get the ballots all out there. Anybody not have a ballot?
I don't, it's coming around.
Sure, I think almost all of them are from health science, so I'll let you know. If I So first I'm going to read a statement from Barbara Kissel, who's the program director at the Community Education Center in Health Sciences. This may be of interest to me since I'm in health sciences and working together with the nursing program director would give us an opportunity to collaborate together. That was statement 5. Be patient, it's a little slow. The second statement was from Julie. Nursing is not my area, but I would be happy to serve. Justification, I feel it is important to support one another when we need hiring committee members. I will diligently review all files and have a flexible schedule that will allow me to serve. Finally, I feel that Dr. Coyne is fair and balanced and would be pleased to serve with her. Okay, the next statement was Deborah. This is to inform you that I would very much be interested in serving on the hiring committee for the nursing program director position. I am a full-time tenure-track nursing faculty currently teaching on our last semester and have also served in the past as one of our assistant directors for 2 years, being in charge of clinical placements and remediation for returning nursing students. And then her email got cut off. All right. Mary Lynn, I would like to serve on the hiring committee for nursing program director. I have worked with many program directors during my 20 years in the PCC registered nursing program. I believe I can constructively evaluate candidates and contribute to the selection process. My focus is maintaining the excellent quality of nursing education here at PCC, including student success and supporting the development of happy and satisfied students and faculty. And then Kristen, since you're here, would you like to make your own statement?
Oh. Well, I'd like to serve as, for the health, since I represent the health science division as an academic senator, I would like to serve. And also I've sat in on many interviews and have worked with several deans, so I think that I can be objective in my decision.
And last is Dawn Nielsen. I am strongly interested in being on the hiring committee regarding the selection of the health sciences DON position. I am passionate about being involved in the process of selecting the best possible candidate for this important position. So there's all your first 6 statements. Please vote for only up to 3. You can vote for less than 3. Please turn in your ballots up to here in front. We'll take a very short 5-minute recess to take that vote, and then we just have a couple of items around here.
Justin.
So turn your ballots into Dan. Yes.
If we're on this summer list, do we have to submit a statement? Like if there's a hiring?
No. Deborah Hillman Ford, Kristen Hyatt, and Don Nielsen.
Yeah, what do you know?
What do you know?
Everybody will be.
All right. This is my last meeting, so I first like to say thank you to the people who put trust in me to lead this past year. I know people have not always agreed with my decisions, and I respect that. And I think that my farewell letter to the faculty will speak for itself. I'm looking very forward to getting back in the classroom next year, and also in the transition to Eduardo. My congratulations to Eduardo for winning. You may regret it 10 years from now. and you probably will. And so I respect this body deeply. I respect those who disagree with me deeply. I look very forward to doing my job and teaching my 120 enrolled students next year. And I thank the executive committee for a good year and 4 years on this body. You'll see me around the hallways. I'll probably be doing this a lot more quiet next year, at least for a year, as I get myself back together. But again, thank you for this body. We're again a very fruitful 4 years, especially since I got the opportunity to go statewide, which I learned a lot.
All right, so with that, fun and games, the end of this month, there's going to be an integrated planning meeting that's going to be happening on the 26th. This is a great time for us to get in line a lot of the clarity of communication process that are going to be happening. The big thing to be prepared as we look forward to is that next year is going to be our self-study for our year of accreditation. So especially given some of the action that we've taken place today, the idea that we're moving forward with our students' best interest in mind needs to be at the forefront of our thoughts, particularly as we try to work through processes and make sure that we're supporting each other in this process. I'll be heading to the state plenary next month. If you've read the resolutions, do you have any specific comments around the resolutions that we'll be having at the statewide level, please send any comments or amendments my way so that I can make them at the floor. Thank you very much. Have a great extended spring.
Okay, Secretary is still raising for the baby, so no report. Dan.
Yeah, I just want to say, Dustin and Panola, being president and vice president of this board, the Senate, is a very, very difficult job for both of you. And I must thank you to both of you for stepping up and taking on this job. It's big responsibility, so thank you for taking it on.
PCCFA report.
No news.
No news. No news is bad news.
Well, they're still in, the per date hasn't been set for the hearing, but in consultation to pick the panel that is going to be representing both sides.
Thank you. Okay, any faculty? Seeing none. Adjunct faculty reports.
Such an interesting year. I've been on the Senate, I think, 11 years, and we go away for 3 meetings, and everything's changed. Great year.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, 3 announcements. The Senate breakfast is May 3rd from 7:30 to 9:30. I hope many people will consider attending. We will be honoring both our retirees and our people who received tenure. Statewide plenary, which Nella and the new president will be attending, is next week. And our scholarship award ceremony, where we'll be giving 12 students awards at a higher number than has ever been granted in the past. Thank you, Bobby Abrams, for that. Is May 1st before the board meeting. I'll have to tell them no confidence right after that, but that's fine. That's the announcements. Any motion to adjourn? So, yes, Eduardo.
I'd just like to say that I'd like to say thank you very much for the entire committee, guys. It has been a difficult year. And even though I know, I for example, have disagreed with you, this should be, I respect the difficult job that you have, and I'd also like to congratulate for the many successes you had. One of these is being able to get the SASE money, so that's going to be very important for the future. So thank you very much for all your hard work.
Thank you, Eduardo. Appreciate it. Was there a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
If that's the news, then I